Hello and welcome back to Our Week in Film. I'm Zach.
And this is our month in film.
Well, some might say that technically we are recording this like a week apart from the last episode, so you could say that it's been a week. So in some senses, it has been a week.
However, that is misleading because the official title of this podcast is Our Month in Film.
You're right. Should we
It can be
um
confusing.
let me just Hi, welcome back to Our Month in Film. I'm Zach,
And I'm Kevin.
and on today's special July episode, we will be discussing all of the things that we enjoyed and consumed um, in July, um, except for food. We could start talking about the food we consumed. Um, I certainly have made some recent dietary changes, but hopefully it'll be good media content, right, Kevin?
Indeed.
And
Indeed.
typically the show will begin with a just a fun, light trivia section where we alternate asking each other questions. And
This
if
time
my
it's my
count
turn.
is right, it's your turn to ask me a question. So let's see how good I am at trivia.
All right. Um. Uh. Surely you can't be serious. It's a striker. Surely you can't be serious.
Um, Airplane?
Very good.
Very
Very
good. I've only
serious.
seen that movie once with my beloved grandpa. Never again.
I am
How about you,
serious.
Kevin?
And don't call me Shirley. I've seen it 3 or 4 times. Love it.
Wow. Wow.
Only
Yeah,
on
but
Blu-ray. It's a good one. You
bet
should
if I
check out,
watched it,
Kevin.
it would be really funny.
Yeah, it is really funny.
Well, now we can begin our discussion of the movies. So I didn't
The
watch a movie until
movies.
actually the dates for the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and the Two Towers are kind of off because I forgot to log them and I just kind of guesstimated when I watched them. But
Hmm.
we're just gonna pretend that the dates are accurate. So I didn't watch a movie until the 16th. So
Yeah, I just did a guesstimate as well when I logged this most recent movie, and I'm also trying to choose a poster right now as well, um, which is fun. Great feature. There's a nice poster here. When the gangs take over the highway, remember he's on your side. That's a cool one. I think I'll put that
did
one
you
up.
watch any movies that are based on Stephen King books this month?
Yep, that's almost the only movies I watched were based on Stephen King books.
Wow.
I watched a few that weren't, but mostly. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Let me pull up my diary. Let me pull up my TV time. Um, I can start talking about. Well, the first one I watched was The Mangler Reborn, which I watched on July 3rd. This was the most terrible one I've watched so far. Um, the Mangler is just about this laundry press that comes to life and severs people's arms pretty much and just mangles them. This is the third one, and it was about this weird guy who became like obsessed with the Mangler, and it was like his love, and he was trying to protect it, and it was weird. It was very dumb, and it was kind of like what was that one? What was that one that came out a couple years ago with the house and the guy
Monster House?
was a rapist and he had like a rape dungeon. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh, I think
It's the one with Bill
a
Skarsgård.
Barbarian, I
Yeah,
think.
Barbarian. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not really. Like it was just in the sense that basically one guy stumbles across this girl who's kidnapped by the Mangler guy, and then they both had to try to work and kind of help each other out. And I don't really exactly remember what happened, but I just remember it was like really bad. It felt very amateurish. Just felt like it was kind of just shot on a consumer grade camera. Not really good lighting or anything. Not really good. Didn't look professional. Acting was very bad. Script was very generic, and it was just really bad.
Wow.
And it didn't even make sense with the Mangler canon. It made more sense than the
Wow.
second Mangler, which was cyber stuff, and that was even stupider. But that one was actually entertaining because it was pretty fun. It was more of a best of the worst. This is just shit. The Mangler Reborn. Um, but anyway, yeah, I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars.
Wow. Good thing you'll never have to watch it again, right?
Good thing, yeah. That's pretty much the
How
lowest I've
many
put. I don't know. I put very few movies at zero or half a star. I don't even know what would make it worse. It's just, anything less is just like I don't know, stupid or annoying or cynical. I feel like I don't know.
24-year-old 41-year-old virgin who knocked up Sarah Marshall and felt super bad about it?
That's definitely a half star. Especially
How
knowing more about Brian Callen these days. That guy's a piece of shit.
are you only watching movies that are adaptations of books you've already read by Stephen King?
Well, pretty much I just had a list of all. It was mainly just Night Shift adaptations. The short stories from Night Shift, and a lot of those were Children of the Corn, and then yeah, and then I watched Carrie's and Pet Cemeteries. But yeah, now I'm done with that list. So the next thing I'll watch will be. Oh no, I didn't even realize I haven't even watched Thinner yet. I should watch that because I finished the book. Anyway, I need to watch Thinner. Completely forgot about that. Talk about that in August.
Wow.
But yes, yeah, basically just watching ones that I've watched months ago, but now I'm caught up. So it's nice.
Perfect.
But now I'm doing my Red Letter Media catch up, which is why I watched Mad Max, which we'll talk about later. But anyways, okay.
Anyways,
Anyways,
you know, you know what's missing from my kitchen currently, Kevin?
a wooden spoon.
A wooden spoon. Yeah, I need a wooden spoon because whenever I stir my oatmeal, I cringe because I have to stir it with a this metal spoon.
Mm, too small.
Yeah, too small, and I don't want to
And
scrape off the
it clinks against the
Teflon
ball.
coating. Hmm.
It clinks. Boy.
Anyways,
Anyways. Well, so that was The Mangler Reborn. Let's see, Children of the Corn. I watched on July 4th. Film from 2009. This is the remake of the original short story. Pretty much a pretty faithful adaptation of that short story. Um, thought it was all right. Wasn't the worst. Um, the cinematography was very like gray and washed out. It wasn't very pleasant to look at. But overall, it was just a pretty basic adaptation of that short story, and it didn't go into any of this weird backstory stuff, which I always hate. It was just about killer kids. That is all the franchise should be. Um, yeah, right. I'm leaving this. Yeah, refreshing my memory for reading my review. But yeah, the main cult leader, he was like 5, and he talked like a kid. It wasn't scary at all. I was just like laughing and going, "Aw," like the whole time. He was like,
hmm.
we have to kill the guys, cause they're the interlopers." It's basically talking like that. When in the original one,
Wow.
it wasn't a kid. It was an adult with some sort of growth disease that made him look more childlike, and it kind of gave him like a creepy look. And he was actually an actor, and he was acting
Mm.
more like a villain. The one in this one was just an actual kid. Um. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. Children of the Corn, 2009. It's available on YouTube. Watched it on YouTube for free.
Wow. So you know it's good.
Hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't even one of those free with ads ones. It was just uploaded by somebody.
I
It's
see.
crazy. Just like
So
this.
it's like the copyright owner just doesn't care at all about Children of the Corn 2007.
Yeah, apparently. Same thing with the Series of Unfortunate Events film, the Jim Carrey one.
Really?
Yeah, it's available on YouTube. I watched it there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just
That's a
uploaded on
classic.
somebody's
Is it?
channel.
Did you say you watched it?
Uh, yeah, I watched it a while ago whenever I was reading. After I finished the first 3 books, probably like a year ago, I watched that movie. at
Do you think
work.
it holds up?
No, it wasn't very good, especially compared to the series. Klaus is a really bad actor.
Hmm.
Um, and the monster
Yeah.
section was rushed. But anyway, we're not talking about Count Olaf and his henchmen today. Have you seen any of
Do
the
you know that I
Children of
had?
the Corn movies? What, Zach?
I was just gonna say that you know that me and my friend Hector, we like to cook a lot of the times when we hang out. And the other day, we had rice pilaf.
Sounds like Count Olaf.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've seen the first Children of the Corn movie. I think that was one of my 300 movies
Hmm.
in 1 year.
Interesting.
But and I remember it being good. I don't really remember a lot about it though.
Did you also make pasta puttanesca?
No, we made this dish that had we made actually like a five we wanted to make like a really fancy 5 course meal. So we had I really wanted to have just asparagus, just grilled asparagus. So I had that, and we had um, mushrooms that Hector added some stuff to make them taste better. And we had a salad that was very delicious and tasty. And we had that rice pilaf with lentils in it. And then we had Ben and Jerry's vegan ice cream for dessert, which was buy one, get one free at Ralph's. Incredible deal.
Wow. Doesn't
We
Hector
got
live in
one, and then
Santa
the
Clarita? Was this
yeah,
before you moved back?
this was a couple. This was like a week ago.
I see.
I got here back here on the 25th, so a little more than a week ago.
I see. Nice.
Which reminds me, we should also discuss my trip to Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
But any other movies you watched?
Yeah, I got more movies I watched. But
Which ones?
all of these, I was blowing through them at work. I would watch one a day at work. Nice to get through them. Man, some of these are just so fucking boring. Next, I watched Children of the Corn Genesis, which is the ninth Children of the Corn film, eighth in the series. This is technically part of the main series. Um, I believe Children of the Corn, this remake, is technically the eighth one, but that's really number one on its own merit. So then we go back to the main timeline with Children of the Corn Genesis. Although, again, they're not really connected at all. This is just kind of its own movie as well. This one was about a mom, single mom, probably like her mid-late 20s, with a kid who was in like early high school age, so she had him when she was probably like 16 or something. And I actually enjoyed their relationship.
I'm getting a little bit of a like a fabric ruffling sound.
Oh, here. Yeah. How about that?
That's good.
Okay. Let me know if that happens again.
Will do.
Okay. Yeah, but anyways, it was focused on this mother and son, and I actually kind of enjoyed the relationship. She was caring after her, and they were closer in age, so it seemed like they just understood each other pretty well. But she was actually a Children of the Corn in when she was younger, so she was trying to escape her past and protect her son. And then I think she went crazy. I think he joined the cult. Don't remember. Although there was like a weird Jebediah guy who had this like kid and then locked in a shed, and I think in some way they connected to the Children of the Corn. But actually, this one was the least corn and least children as well. It was barely even about killer kids. It was more like about her backstory and this kid that was locked up in the shed. They don't really remember,
Hmm.
but this kid did have some sort of voodoo magic power. Just reading my review here, refreshing my memory. The one scene that I do remember, well, I remember a couple scenes, but the one that was actually entertaining was they gave this kid a toy like giant, like those tow trucks that have like can hold like 10 cars, the rig in the back. They gave him like a toy model of that, and the last scene, as the mom was driving, I think away with her kid. I think or something. It seemed like our heroes were getting away. I think, but then they were in front of um, a truck exactly like the toy one, with all the cars rigged on it. And the kid would drop a car off the toy, and then the car in real life would fly off onto the highway and crash into them. And there was like 6 cars crashing on the highway, and they were trying to avoid them. So I remember that. But other than that, um, don't really remember anything about it. There was a relationship with this guy one time. Uh, yeah, this one was really not very good.
Got it.
And then, sorry,
Well, actually, I think that I'm realizing that I left for Iceland on the 11th, or that I left for Iceland on the 9th, I think. I left on the 9th, so there's no way I could have watched Lord of the Rings on the 16th or the 17th. It must have been earlier than that. So I think I should discuss the Lord of the Rings.
okay.
Or what date are you on?
Next is the 6th.
Hmm. Okay, well, I'll discuss Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and then you can discuss Carrie, and then
All right,
okay.
sounds good.
Well, so me and my friends Luke and Sam decided to watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies because I'd never seen them before, and
I think you watched it one
they
time, but just as a kid, before
yes, I
you
watched them as a kid.
before you were sentient, right?
I really don't remember very much about
Yeah.
um
The only
the
thing I
movies. The
remembered before I rewatched it was when he ate the fish. The scene where Smeagol turns into Gollum. I remember that scared. That was very creepy. Very
I
scary scene.
remember that was the one thing I
It's very
remembered too. I
horrifying.
remembered it very
Yep,
distinctly.
biting into the fish. Really disturbed me. But anyways, talk about the first one.
Well, this is a movie that is, and we watched the extended editions too.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
this is a movie that is very wide in scope, epic, grand, but also at the same time very small. Um, it's in my opinion, it's awesome. It's great. It's amazing, and it feels has the same sort of vibes as Harry Potter in this whole mythical world and all these different types of creatures. And it looks like a very real world, shot in New Zealand, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it it starts out in the Shire with Frodo, and then Gandalf tells him that he has to go destroy this ring, and then he sets out, and his friend Samwise Gamgee comes with him, and then his other two Hobbit friends, Pippin and Merry, come with him, and they set out on this beautiful adventure, and then eventually they meet up with all these other cool guys. Aragorn, the man,
Aragorn. Mm-hmm.
uh, and Legolas, the elf, and
Mm-hmm.
Gimli, the dwarf,
Mm-hmm.
and the three of them in later movies become part of their own little, uh, have their own adventure. I don't know. It's just such a very classic, like it feels very earnest, and it's not like a I don't know. It's not like I feel like it's not like a movie today that would be like making jokes or whatever all the time. It feels very earnest and real. Like everything that's happening really matters, and there's still some lighthearted elements to it. But it really works. It's just a really good movie, and obviously it's based on the book, which is also supposed to be really good. But I think that the way Peter Jackson executed the movie, is very well done, and yeah, Gandalf is awesome. Gandalf the Grey in this movie. Um, oh, got a battery full notification. Uh, yeah, and it just feels like a big D&D campaign, which obviously D&D is like based off of the Lord of the Rings, so that makes sense. But it's just so awesome and epic and cool. And yeah, I understand why people like the movie so much. You know, I gave I gave all of them 4.5 stars. I don't know what I could say. I mean, I feel like they're all just
Yeah.
such good works of art. You said you watched them recently?
No, not recent. I watched them in my senior year when I got that
Uh,
poster.
ah,
Watched the first two in one day and then waited like 3 months for the next one.
did you watch the extended editions?
No, I watched the theatrical,
Hmm.
my Blu-rays. Yeah, I don't really
Uh,
remember much of the series as a whole. Just like the moments. Especially don't remember much of Fellowship. Is Fellowship when um Bilbo goes crazy for a second? Which one is that?
yeah, well,
Did that scare you?
no, I remembered that though. I knew it was coming. Didn't necessarily viscerally scare me. I believe, I think that maybe that scene is in the second one, but I'm not sure. But in the Fellowship of the Ring, like the first half is them making their way to the Elf Kingdom, and then all of the
Rivendell.
Rivendell,
Yes, which I
all
want
of
the
the
Lego
different
set of so badly, even though I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. I want to get
all
into
the
it just
different
so I can buy the
people
Lego set.
from all the different lands come together, and then most of them are like, "No, I don't want to help on this mission." And then the Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli are like, "I'll volunteer," and they're all supposed to go together to get this ring to Mordor to destroy it. But then by the end of it, they get, or by the end of it, Frodo decides to go out on his own and do it himself, and then Sam's coming with you,
The Fellowship is broken. Thanks for that J.R.R. token. Frodo's gone.
and Sam's coming with you.
Bum bum bum
Yep.
bum bum.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what happens. I mean, they battle. I think they have some, fights and stuff. And there's this guy who is in it um, at the start, but then he gets shot with arrows and dies. And then his dad comes back later in the third movie. Um, but yeah,
I remember when they hide from the ring wraiths. It's pretty scary. That's pretty scary.
yeah, it is scary. Yeah, and Gandalf falls and seemingly dies
The
in
Balrog
this
is in the
movie.
first one.
I don't even know who that is.
The big monster when he says "You shall not pass." That's the
Oh yeah,
Balrog.
yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, yeah, that he is. Yes, that's right.
Was that epic when he said "You shall not pass"?
I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming. It was pretty epic.
Gandalf.
Well, would you like to discuss the next movie?
Can you do a Gollum impression? Do you meet Gollum in the second one? Is that when you really get introduced?
Yeah, well, I believe in the intro, there's like a pretty pretty decently sized intro to the Fellowship of the Ring where they explain all the lore of how the ring came to be, and they talk about how Bilbo got the ring from Gollum, but they don't actually show him, I don't think. They Actually, they might. I'm not sure. I can't remember which happens in which movie. I know there's a scene where like they're in Mordor, like torturing Gollum, try to get information out of him or something. Oh, that's right. No, they do show him. They torture Gollum, and Gollum tells the ring wraiths basically to go to the Shire. And that's where they'll find the ring. So that's the one thing that they show from Gollum, but he doesn't actually show up. He doesn't actually meet Frodo until the second movie, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like maybe a month or two ago, there was like a good. I had like a hour long period where I was just looking at Lord of the Rings lore for some
Oh,
reason.
really?
I was like, why is the ring so powerful? Why does it make people evil? Then I watched the Gollum scene like 3 times when he becomes
It
Gollum.
makes people evil because it's really Sauron's ring, and it's compelling them to do.
And then I looked up who is Sauron, why is the Eye of Sauron so big, stuff like that. It
Oh,
made me want to really read the books, which I will do after I finish the '80s Stephen King stuff. It's my
oh
official
yeah,
decision.
that's
Yeah,
your plan.
yeah, because right after 1989 is The Dark Half, and then right after that is The Stand Uncut Edition. And I just read The Stand a couple months ago, so I'm gonna put a little break where I read the trilogy
Mm,
plus The Hobbit in between.
I
You know,
see.
so
Sounds like a plan.
excited for that. Yeah. 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 Well, let's see. I guess I'll talk about Carrie. I watched the 2013 Chloe Grace Moretz Carrie with Ansel Elgort as Tommy Ross. What should I read about my review? I don't know. I don't even remember anything about this. It's very forgettable. Not very good. I mean, it tells the story, but it's like, just Brian De Palma did it better.
Mm.
Um,
Well, I feel like you've watched Carrie like 6 times in the past 2 months or something.
yeah, just a big blur Carrie. Seen all the Carries this year. Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I mean, I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars.
Right.
Don't
Four
really
out
have
of
anything.
ten.
Yes, 4 out of 10. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about it. It was all right. Watch the original instead.
Will
Um,
do.
I did remember the one part I remembered was when they killed Chris Hardinson. They like in the movie she like tilts the car, levitates it so that the headlights are facing straight to the ground, and then she just drops her, and her face goes through the windshield.
Wow.
I remember that. That was the first rated R movie I ever watched. I was like, wow, it's so violent. Is this what
I think
happens
the
in rated R
I think the
movies?
first rated R movie I ever watched was Lucy.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know that movie?
Yeah, we all watched it together, I think.
Um,
I didn't know that was R. That didn't feel. Don't remember anything crazy about it. Action movie. I remember when she went back. There was a dinosaur right in front of me.
yeah,
It was a cool
that's
part.
awesome. I wish I could
Fell off
do
the
that.
top again. Yeah.
It was so cool how they showed New York regressing and
Uh huh. Yeah, I
you
was
could
like,
see
man, I
that.
wish I could do that. See it progress in reverse.
Yeah. But I'm living in an apartment from 1890. Pretty historic. Sometimes or earlier I was thinking, wow, I wonder what Italian immigrant family lived here in 1890.
Hmm.
Because I'm in Little Italy and there used to be a lot of Italian immigrants here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well,
This is one of these instances when we should have pre-planned how to talk about these, because I've got like 4 books. Yeah, 4 books plus TV. Well, really just for The Walking Dead. I could talk about the boys a little bit. I mean, not the boys, the bear, but yeah. Um, you want to talk about the Two Towers?
yeah, sure. Well, in this one, Gandalf comes back as Gandalf the White, more majestic, more seemingly enlightened. Um, and he has a battle with Saruman, the evil wizard.
Did he say
Um,
candy is a waste of time?
no, he didn't. I don't know what that's referencing.
It's from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, that makes sense.
Willy Wonka's
Yeah,
dad.
right. Yeah, got it. No, he
R.I.P.
didn't say that.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, for sure. Um, in this one, I think that Frodo and Sam continue on their way to Mordor and they meet Gollum and Frodo Frodo befriends Gollum, but Sam it doesn't like him. And I don't really remember. Let's see. Let me read the description. Frodo and Sam are trekking to Mordor to destroy the One Ring of Power, while Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn search for the orc captured. Oh, right. There's an orc that captured Merry and Pippin. Um, yeah. So, there's also a big battle at the end also. There's a battle at the end of this one and the Return of the King, but
Is the second one when Legolas surfs down the stairs on his shield? Is it the third one?
maybe. I don't remember.
They all
I
blend
think
together.
I think so actually. Might have been,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the epic battle during night is the second one, and then the giant one where she says, "I am no man," is the third one.
Mm. Yeah, well, I also gave it 4.5 stars, so yeah, I enjoyed it.
Nice. Well, let me talk about the Talisman because it is based on the Lord of the Rings as well as the Dark Tower. Stephen King wanted to do a big epic, both the Dark Tower and the Talisman. Co-wrote it with English horror author Peter Straub, and the book is about a 12-year-old boy named Jack Sawyer who grew up in California with his mother and father and was close to his friend Phil, or his friend Richard and his father Phil. And we pick up when we pick up with Jack in New Hampshire, and he's feeling very depressed. He's feeling very confused. His father's dead. He died when he was a lot younger, but they just recently moved out of their hometown and have just been kind of moving from place to place. And his mother has been just like not herself. She's just kind of rotting, it seems, mentally and almost physically. And she started smoking again. And Jack feels like she's just given up hope, and he just doesn't feel like anything's real. And then um, he meets this guy named Speedy at the pier, and he calls him Traveling Jack, which is what his dad also called him, which he later remembers from his mom. And eventually, Speedy gives him the information that Jack has the ability to flip into the territories, which is a kind of alternate universe, not exactly parallel, more like alternate, in which things are more kind of Renaissance-ish, kind of more medieval, castles and guards and whatnot. And in this parallel world called the Territories, his mother is the queen of the Territories. In our world, she's the queen of the bees. She's a B movie actress who is in about 50 B movies. But in the Territories, she's the actual queen, and
Wow.
that is why she is dying. She has her twinner, is what they're called. If you have someone who is basically you, but in the other universe, is your twinner. They look like you. They kind of have the same energy as you most of the time, but they're not exactly you. And he finds out that his mother's twinner is also sick, and he just sees one glimpse of her at the very beginning of his journey, pretty much, because he needs to have that image in his head. The guard that took him under and knew Speedy. I'm trying to not completely ramble, but he saw her and said, I need to keep that image in my mind and not forget, and this is why I'm doing my quest. And basically, he needs to go into the Territories so he can find the Talisman, which will cure his mother, apparently. His mother has cancer, and so does Laura, her twinner. And essentially, there's that, and then eventually he gets to the end and finds the Talisman. And along the way, it's just a bunch of side quests, pretty much, and it's just really great. Uh, Early on, he winds up, he flips back from the Earth to the Territories a lot, and it's very exciting. There's like 200-page chunks where he's just on Earth, then he flips back to the Territories for another 100 pages. But the first place he stops is in a town called Oatley in New York, and it's like this kind of like liminal, kind of halfway in between world where there's external forces keeping him there for a while, and he just becomes this like, and it's not exactly clear how long he was even there, and I think that's because the world is a little thin in that area, and time may have moved on. Uh, but he is just under the wing of this incredibly abusive guy, and he just cleans up puke all the time. He has to haul 50-pound kegs of beer all across the room all the time, and he gets cuffed really hard if he doesn't get it right. And he tries to leave, and his boss says, "I know the cop in this town, and he's a pedophile, and if you try to leave, he's gonna molest you, and I'll tell him." But eventually, he gets out by flipping to the territories, which is kind of his last resort most of the time, because he learns that there's also kind of aftershocks, and if, like, at one point he flips back from the territories into Earth, and that point where he flipped, there was an earthquake that killed a couple people, so he realizes, he's like, so that's the main part. The first stop, the second and biggest section, he meets this wolf. In the territories, there's like half human kind of wolf people who can communicate. They can speak with other people, but they're kind of like half wolf, half human. But they're also werewolves, and they transform into werewolves once every month. But he meets his friend Wolf, and they flip back into Earth, and like the next 200 pages is him with Wolf trying to not lose his mind, and be annoyed with Wolf, because Wolf basically has ultra keen hearing and ultra keen smell, and the way Jack's been getting across the country going west is by hitching rides pretty much. But when he's with Wolf, it becomes very difficult, because anytime he gets into a car, Wolf says, "I can't go in there, Jackie. There's bad smells, death smells." And he can smell like just reeks of cigarettes. He can also smell if people are dying. He says, "I smelled him. He's dying, Jackie. That's the death smell. I can't go in there." So a big section of the book is him just trying to deal with Wolf and trying to get by. There's one part where he tries to like just get a couple of hours of sleep, and he brings Wolf to a movie theater and tries to get him to watch a couple cartoons, so he can get some sleep. But then, like, I love how it describes it. He's like, the second Wolf stepped into the theater, he knew that it wasn't going to work. Like, from his perspective, it's just a giant, dark, scary room with scary images flashing and extremely loud sounds, and he just can't take it anymore. They leave. And then eventually they get picked up by a cop and sent to this, like, reformment home called the Sunlight Home. And we learn that the guy who runs that place is Osmond's twinner, who is... Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well, but...
Why don't you just share with me your opinion on it instead of just recapping the entire book?
Well, I thought it was amazing.
Got it. Sounds like a good book.
I
I'll
don't
have to
want to
read
just
it
say
sometime.
that.
I wouldn't want to
But I don't want to
know too much about it because I'm going to read it.
I
So
shouldn't spoil it. Yeah, that's actually
spoiled
true. That's true. That's true.
It's true. It's true.
Cool things, though, is picked up on some Dark Tower connections that I didn't pick up on the first time, especially. The Talisman itself has certain... It describes it as worlds within worlds. It's like the axis of all worlds, which is what the Dark Tower is. So either this is a form of the Dark Tower, similar to how the Rose in New York is a form of the Dark Tower, or it could be just a similar thing, or it could be one of the bends of the rainbow that Marilyn made, theorizing. But the coolest part I picked up on is in the Dark Tower, they go, in Roland's world, they go on this, like, ultra fast, like faster than any modern technology could do, like a bullet train times 10, named Blaine, who's run by this artificial intelligence that is slowly losing his mind. Very cool character. But in this Talisman, they also go on a train heading west, exact same in the Dark Tower, and they go across the Blasted Lands, in which there's like creatures, just otherworldly, ungodly creatures just swimming in this just chasm of, it's just like hell. This section of the country is just hell pretty much, and they take a ride across there. It's the same thing as in the Dark Tower, and I just love those little details. And it's interesting trying to. I couldn't really tell, but it's interesting trying to figure out whether it's Peter Straub or Stephen King writing it. And I wonder how they co-wrote it, or if they just kind of shared the plot they wanted to do, and each of them just wrote a section, or one wrote a chapter, or what. I don't know.
Did it seem like a Dick? Could you tell the writing style was any different from a solo Stephen King book?
Not really. Maybe they. I don't know. I can't compare. I don't know how similar Peter Straub's writing style is as well, so I'm really not sure. But definitely the Oatley Tap and Sunlight Gardner home had to have been Stephen King, I think. It's the amount of vulgarity.
Mm.
But very cool. And Odyssey. Just really loved how most of the story was just their obstacles and trying to overcome them. The main quest was just getting the talisman.
Very good review. Well, sounds like a good book. Sounds like a very interesting book.
And in the territories, there's this guy named Osmond who's really crazy, and he has a whip. He's the underling of the main bad guy, Philip Morgan of Oris, also named Morgan Sloat in our world. And he knows his twinner, and they like work together and merge whenever they're in the territories. And his goal is basically to rule the territories and eventually rule the multiverse or whatever. And there was also another section where it described Jack came to the realization that there's probably a territories, and a territories, and a territories, so on, so on, so on. And according to something I read, the territories is all world, which is Roland's world, so that we're only 2 jumps away from Roland's world. And the way a lot of the stuff they describe is very similar to how Roland's world is. Roland's world is a lot more kind of medieval and old timey, and it's more magic based than science and technology in the territories. There's 2-headed parrots at one point. Which also, we could talk about Eyes of the Dragon as well, which also takes place in Roland's world. But yeah. Bit of a ramble there. It was like 800 pages, very vast plot. Lots of characters and backstory.
You read that whole book just in July?
No, I read most of it in June and then finished it in July.
I see.
So.
Very good.
They should be adapting it soon. I think it's in development hell right now, but apparently there should be a Steven Spielberg produced, Duffer Brothers produced series coming out.
Wow. It's exciting.
Hopefully they do it right if they do it.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
All right. Now shall we discuss something?
Instead of trying to get the ring and destroy it, trying to get the ring and use it to heal his mother. Except it's not a ring, it's a ball.
I see. Except in Lord of the Rings, he already has the ring.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of a reverse. Traveling to get rid of it, even though they already have it. Traveling to get it, because he doesn't have it.
Right.
Evil talismanic object, good talismanic object.
I don't even know what a talisman is. I don't know what a talismanic object is.
I think it means like having great aura or something. Let me look it up. Talismanic. Relating to the nature of a talisman. Talismans. That's not very helpful.
An object, typically an inscribed ring or stone that is thought to have magic powers and to bring good luck. Yeah.
The one ring would be talisman then, huh?
I thought the talisman in the book, though, was like person.
Nope. It's an object.
Guess I misinterpreted what you said.
He's not the man. He's not the talisman.
That's what I thought.
No. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I was like, who's the talisman? But it's what's the talisman? It's what will
Who,
save
what,
Lord
when, where,
Dilithium and
why?
ultimately the universe. It's very funny thinking that Morgan thought he was going to conquer the entire universe when there's Ka and much stronger forces than he.
How hilarious.
Child's play.
Fucking idiot.
Okay. Okay. Well, Zach, do you want to talk about your Iceland trip? I'm dying to hear about it.
Sure, Kevin. Well, me and my friend Lettuce went on a trip to Iceland recently. It was quite the epic journey. It was sort of like the Lord of the Rings if they had a 2006 Honda Accord and Canada Air. Um, but I drove all my stuff, all my possessions, from our beloved childhood home in Santa Clarita all the way to here, my new apartment in Little Italy in Chicago. And Lettuce drove with me. We took turns. It was an epic road trip. And in fact, while on the road trip, I listened to play quite a few of my favorite albums. We uh, listened to Neil Diamond Greatest Hits on the drive, as well as Harry Nilsson, who's awesome. We listened to The Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa's band. I also listened to an album I never listened to before, called The B-52s by the B-52s, featuring Rock Lobster, and very good. Sort of similar in style to the Talking Heads. Um, and I listened to like 8 Bob Dylan albums on the last day. But the drive there was extremely scenic. Um, obviously we were traversing the entire country, so we got to see uh, the chaparral environment of Santa Clarita turn into a desert, and driving through Nevada and Arizona, the beautiful rocks in Utah, driving through that little area on the I-15 where you have rocks on either side. And then we continued on past I-15, transferred over to I-70, and there we were in Colorado. I-70 drives along the beautiful Colorado River. It runs right along it for a good section, and you're just in beautiful mountains. A lot of driving uphill because you're driving up in elevation in Colorado. And then past a certain point in Colorado, it starts to transition into Nebraska. And Nebraska and Iowa are just very beautiful, scenic
Here, keep.
green,
I'm listening. Keep going.
beautiful, scenic green rolling hills. Or not rolling, beautiful, scenic farmland. There's lots of nice um, farms and whatnot. And oh, that just reminded me, I need to pay the toll for driving there because when we drove in Illinois, there was a toll, like 5 different tolls we had to go through. So I probably owe a bunch of money,
Wow.
like $10
I've never
probably.
gone through a toll, at least not while I was driving. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy. I thought it was a freeway, huh?
I thought so too. I was actually reading about the inter the Dwight D. Eisenhower Interstate. Hold on, I need to find the
Yeah, shout
official
out.
title.
Single-handedly created our interstate system.
It's
Yeah.
um it's actually called the Dwight D. Eisenhower National System of Interstate and Defense Highways.
Defense highways. Why is it defense?
Interestingly, because he was talking about how Eisenhower was like, if we need to defend our country in any way, we need to be able to get military vehicles anywhere in the country, and we currently can't do that because the roads are so bad. So that was like the one of the original reasons for it, for people and for the military.
Wow.
Um,
He had a vision.
he did have a vision, yes. Yes, very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
There were the first funding for federal highways was in 1916, and that's when they made like the U.S. route, like Route 66, which is now defunct. and then they created the freeway, which is a freeway because there are controlled entrances and exits to it, so you can't just go on it wherever. You can only go on an on ramp or an off ramp. That's why freeways are so great because you just continue you just continue freely. Um, but yeah, we made it to my apartment, enjoyed a day here, and then we went off to Iceland. A lot of plane travel. It was like 2 hours to get to Montreal, and then we had to go through we had to go through like a winding series of different checkpoints for them to make sure that we were there legally. And then in the airport, Lettuce bought me a beer, um, and it was really expensive, but wasn't my money, so. But it was also very good. And there was this guy who was
What kind
sitting
of
next to
beer?
us. I don't remember the brand. It was some.
Is it local?
Actually, I guess, yeah. I think one of them might have been like a Stella Artois, though. I think I had two actually. So
Mm.
2 pints of
Yeah, I
beer
bet
in the airport.
airport alcohol's gotta be crazy. It'll be
Very
like the
expensive.
H3 show alcohol, and that shit's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. But there was this guy sitting next to us at the bar, and I started humming "Hello Goodbye," or I started singing it "Hello Goodbye" by the Beatles, and then he started finishing the lyrics, and then I looked up at him and smiled, and then he talked to us a little bit about our trip, and was like, "Seems like everyone's going to Iceland nowadays."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe."
Maybe.
Um, but Iceland, it makes sense as a travel destination for Americans because it's like the closest European country to us, the most Western European country,
Hmm.
and
I
also the
really
most.
geographically challenged. I have to refer to a map. I have no
Yeah,
idea where Iceland is.
it's uh it's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, northern though. It's also the northernmost capital. Um, but yeah, then we had like a 7 hour or something plane ride. Can't remember
Yeah, not too far.
to Iceland, and we made it. We went through customs. They gave us a nice, beautiful stamp in my passport on the way in, and we got our rental car, which was a nice Mazda hatchback that had the heads-up display holographic bead on the actual windshield itself, just very tiny on the bottom, so you didn't even have to look away from the road at all.
Oh, it's got the mile per hour like hologram.
Yeah, it's like a little like it's like a mirror that like reflects an image on
Yeah,
back onto the
I think I've seen
windshield.
a picture of that online. It's cool.
It is very cool. The new Honda Accord has it.
Oh,
And it was like we landed in Keflavik, Iceland, and we had to drive like 45 minutes to Reykjavik. We drove past a Costco and an IKEA there,
wow.
and we got to our accommodations, which was a house called the Reykjavik Peace Lodge or something like that. It was just like a house, and um, we had our own. Well, we actually had to wait like 3 hours in the car because we were there at like noon, and we couldn't check in until 3 or whatever. But once we got in, we had our own room, two double beds, and a little wardrobe for our clothes. No bathroom. We had shared bathrooms. No toiletries. No soap. Um, there was hand soap that I actually used along with a sock as a washcloth to clean myself at one point.
Hmm.
And the water also smells like sulfur, because it's like under it. I guess we're just on like a giant volcano, so that's why. It smells just like Yellowstone. Um, and we had a fridge, we had a kitchen, and so the first day we just kind of uh, relaxed pretty much. We drove to get some vegan food from the Loving Hut vegan restaurant, which had some nice Asian Asian food. I had like pad thai and fried calamari there, and everyone there speaks English, so it's very easy to do anything.
Is
Um,
lettuce vegetarian or anything, or no?
no lettuce, lettuce just is nice and is willing to go to a vegan restaurant. I actually didn't. I think lettuce actually proposed going to the vegan restaurant. I didn't really. I didn't. I just got a game over in 2048. I was so close.
Are you playing
Um,
a video game while trying to discuss an intelligent podcast?
you didn't. What you just said was not intelligent at all. And we're not trying to discuss an intelligent podcast.
What? Trying to
Trying to have an intelligent discussion on our podcast.
sure.
Well,
Trying
yeah,
to
I am
discuss
because
intelligently.
it's not that hard of a game to play while you're talking.
Hmm.
Haven't you ever played 2048?
Yeah, I played it. I know how the game is.
Yeah,
You
it's
go like
pretty
this.
simple to yeah, it's pretty simple to play. You're just combining little blocks together.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
I debated maybe playing on my Switch, but I didn't because I felt like I would be distracted.
well, I feel like that would be more of a distraction than playing 2048.
I also just have a hard time focusing if I'm not focusing about if I'm
Well,
reading something. Anyway. Anyways.
yeah, so in Iceland second day we got food at Costco
Wow.
because
Who knew
lettuce is a
there'd be a
Costco.
Costco in Iceland?
Yeah, I didn't know. Lettuce has a Costco executive membership, which is the more expensive one that they got for their birthday.
Hmm.
Um,
What
we
does
went to
that get you?
Costco.
Isn't they
I
all the
don't
same prices?
think it gets you more of like a they give you like a refund, like give you like a percentage of the money you spent at Costco in the form of a
It's cash back?
check every year.
Hmm.
So I think it might just give you more cash back, possibly. I'm not sure. I didn't really ask, but I got some falafel and hummus, and I just sort of took
Nice.
the falafel and dipped it in the hummus and ate that for quite a few meals while we were there.
That sounds good.
We went to downtown Reykjavik, which has a very cool church. Um, if you look up Reykjavik Church, it'll show you. It's really cool. Um, it like spreads out like this, and
Oh yeah.
you can
I
pay
spelled
to
Reykjavik
go to the.
horribly wrong, and I only got 6 results. Let's
Oh,
see. Yeah. Oh no. Let's see. I'll pull this up for our viewers here. As you can see, very nice church. Did you go at night while it was lit like this?
well, yeah, we went during the day and during the night. The first time we went, it was during the day, and we just sort of walked around. And then eventually we were about to leave, and then Lettuce was like, I hear music. Can we try to follow the live music? It sounded like live music, and so we followed the sound. And eventually we found out that they were having like a Icelandic punk show there with some punk rockers
Hmm.
who seemed to be probably in their 40s, but they were just screaming at the top of their lungs Icelandic lyrics and playing really loud, and everyone there was having a good time. Let us paid for us to go in. I got we got like little wristbands, and it's very small. It was just off the side of like the a small little street, um, and we got little beer tokens, so we could give the bartender the tokens, and he would just give us a beer or a cocktail if we wanted, for not for free, but included with the price of admission. And I actually
One
found
drink
a
per ticket.
2 drinks per
Two
ticket.
drinks. Wow.
Yeah,
Could you buy more for extra? Or did they
yeah,
cut you off?
yeah. Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's just it was inside a bar. It was like a bar with a little well, no, it was a bar and there was like an outside patio or I guess beer garden outside. And that's where the show was. But I actually found a pack of cigarettes on the ground that was almost completely full right before, and people were coming up to me and asking if they could trade beer tokens for cigarettes.
Wow.
Two people, I should say. And the first person I said, sure, sounds like
Interesting.
a good deal. The second person, I didn't really want any more alcohol, so I just said, you can just take one of these. You don't need to give me a beer token. Um, but yeah, that was fun.
One cigarette per beer token? Was that the deal?
That was actually no, it was two. It was two.
Two feels more fair.
2 cigarettes for 1 beer. Yeah. The guy came up to me and at first he asked me in Icelandic and I said what, and then he immediately changed to perfect English. Um,
Do I
but yeah,
look Icelandic?
no, I didn't say that. Um, Also, I
What
don't even
kind
know
of
what it means
cigarettes
to
were they?
look Icelandic. They were Winston pop capsule cigarettes. They had little pop. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they have little pop capsule ones where you have it, and if you smoke it without popping it, it's just a normal cigarette. But
Yeah.
if you pop the little
Do
capsule, it
menthol?
tastes. It wasn't menthol. It was like fruit or something.
Oh,
I
it
didn't
was
know what flavor it
flavored.
was, but
Oh,
it was flavored.
I looked up Winston Pop Capsule Atlantic. I got a Funko Pops for the character Winston from Overwatch. Big gorilla.
Mm.
Cigarettes. Were they completely um, bland packaging
No,
like Jacob Jones videos,
they
or it's not
were
that regulated?
regular packaging, but they had the health warnings all over them, and they had
Yeah.
disgusting lungs on the back or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
the logo and everything was still there. It was just like
Hmm.
over top of the regular packaging.
These are cool pins, Zach. Check out these pins, especially the Winston one. See, see my share
Yeah,
screen.
those are cool pins. Full rich tobacco taste.
I don't
Does it
know.
say full rich or full rich?
Pull Rich.
Should say full, I feel like.
And it says tobacco taste with no space. Do call. Very cool. Smoking
We
is
also,
cool, kids.
that's what I'm saying. We also went to a tobacco shop where Lettuce spent a ton of money on expensive Cuban cigarillos,
Hmm.
which they sell in Iceland because Iceland has no domestic or international problems with Cuba, unlike us. So
Mm-hmm.
Lettuce bought a bunch of those, and
Wow, I should have given some to
I
Kramer.
I bought a coffee flavored vape while we were there,
Just a
and
disposable.
yeah, disposable vape.
How was that?
And it was a bad decision in terms of flavor because it was way too sweet. I wish I had just gotten a typical mint. But anyways, yeah, so we went to that Icelandic punk rock show the first day. The second day, we went back and we went to a flea market that was going on, and uh, I think Lettuce bought like a little hat or something. They had some cool stuff there, like old technology. That's the stuff I like. They had like old manual like calculators or cash registers,
What
all
does a
sorts of
manual
cool stuff.
calculator look like?
It's just imagine a typewriter, but just yeah,
Oh yeah. Wow.
just only with calculations.
This one
Um,
has a little 1930s. Just
mhm.
use an abacus. What's it called?
No, I mean
Abacus.
it'll do the computation for you, but it literally just mechanically adds all the numbers together somehow. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we were pretty jet lagged by the way the whole time. We're like tired. Our sleep schedules were really messed up because the sun sets at like 11:30 at night and rises at like 3 in the morning, so it never really gets fully dark. So we didn't do as much as we could have if we had been more gung ho about our trip, but we spent a lot of time in our hotel just relaxing. But I guess that's why uh, parents always encourage kids to wake up when they're on vacation so that they can actually do stuff. Because without a parent there, I just slept as long as I wanted, and we didn't end up doing anything outside of uh, Reykjavik. Um, but we did do our 24-hour walk, which was 40 miles of walking, starting
Wow.
at like 5:30 p.m.
You couldn't get.
And
You weren't too jet lagged to do that. That sounds
well,
pretty
no, I mean,
exhausting.
I'm just saying, just our sleep schedule was messed up. I mean, because we didn't try to like adjust our circadian rhythm at all. Like we didn't make any attempt to adjust to Icelandic time. We just kind of slept when we wanted.
Mm,
So yeah, I mean, we slept a full night. We slept a full amount of sleep, and then we started our walk.
I see.
Um,
Okay.
So yeah, that's why we started at like 5:30 p.m. But it was a beautiful day, no clouds in the sky. It was the only day of the whole trip where there wasn't clouds in the sky. It wasn't raining. Um, and we took a nice circuitous route to get to Reykjavik. We walked along this kind of peninsula, wrapped around it, and then went back up. And then like Reykjavik is around here, so we started like down here. We walked around this thing, and they're beautiful walking paths all around, just like a good European city should have. And there was like directions on how to get to Reykjavik that we could just follow, so I didn't have to use like my phone. But eventually we made it to downtown, and that was around like 10 p.m. We walked around. We saw the sunset along the Atlantic Ocean, um, and they have a little walking path that goes right along the ocean that's very cool. Um, at a certain point in the night, we were walking close to the church, and this guy came running up to us, like kind of panting, out of breath. And he was like, you guys, you got to see. Over there in that building, in that there's like a garden with all these. Oh, what's the word? Oh, what's the word? He couldn't remember the word for it. Turns out the word he was looking for was statues, or actually, he was looking for the word sculpture. And turns out there were a bunch of sculptures in this garden that was right next to the church. So we checked those out.
He was just
There were
wanted you to see him.
Yeah, he just really wanted us to see him. He also told us that there were lesbians having sex in the garden, but by the time we got there, I guess they had left. So,
Come quick,
um,
come quick. There's two lesbians having sex in the garden. Did he say it like that?
no, he didn't say it like that. He said, just watch out for the lesbians having sex.
Oh, okay.
That's what he
Interesting.
said. Um,
Those Europeans.
well, he wasn't even European. He seemed like he was American.
You didn't know
He had
he
an
was
American
Russian?
accent. And he was also obese like me, so I could tell he was American.
Hmm.
Um,
There's no obese people in Iceland.
nope,
They're
not
all
a
too
single
busy
one.
smoking cigarettes.
Actually, Iceland has the lowest rate of cigarette smokers of any European country, I believe.
Hmm.
Also, the lowest rate of crime, interestingly.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, we checked that out. There's a little swing set right by that church that we swung on for a little bit. And I also smoked one of the cigarillos while we were there. Very nice. And oh, we were listening to music also. We were listening to Beach Boys music, listening to Beach Boys Summer Days and Summer Nights, and then we were talking about how Summer Days and Summer Nights has a couple songs that are not the best, like Salt Lake City. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, well, Beach Boys today has pretty much perfect lineup, not a single stinker on there. So then we listened to that, and then I started listening to some songs from the 192 song
Doo
Made in
wop songs.
California box set
Oh, I didn't
by the
know you
Beach
had that.
Boys.
Oh,
I don't have it, but I mean, it's
just Apple Music.
just on Apple Music, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Um, and we listened to Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, uh, New Gold Hits, their best album, and uh, we started walking around this roundabout at a certain point because Lettuce wanted to put their backpack down but still wanted to keep walking. But we found this roundabout. We just started walking in opposite directions, and then we high-fived each other whenever we met. So we did that for like an hour, and I listened to All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And then at that point, we walked towards this lighthouse. Walked like 2.5 miles there and 2.5 miles back. And unfortunately, we couldn't actually go up to it because it was closed for bird season or something. There was a sign that said like from these dates to this date,
Oh, gosh.
you
Bird
can't go
season?
in. Bird like mating season or something. Like they had to protect it. I don't know. I didn't really understand it, but
Hmm.
yeah, we saw this lighthouse, and then we Then we found I was feeling pretty tired out by this point, and I wanted to get some electrolytes, so we found a convenience store. I got a bottle of some sort of, it wasn't Gatorade, it was some sort of other electrolyte drink. Or actually, the first one was Gatorade, and the second one was a Rocket Pop flavored random electrolyte drink. And then at this point, we started heading back, and I was extremely worn out, extremely beaten up. My feet were killing me because I was developing a blister,
Mm.
and by the end, it was just my whole body was stiff and in pain, and every step was an effort. And just I started trying I have almost holding back tears just from the pain. Um, and I started
Wow,
listening
that
to
is so
Frank
sad.
Sinatra. Yeah, you know what? But it only happens when it happens, and never again.
Hmm.
Now it's just a distant memory, and only have the good memories. I started listening to Frank Sinatra and singing it loudly to try to keep my spirits up. And eventually we made it back to the hotel a little bit before the 24-hour mark. And Lettuce was like, I'm going to keep walking. And I was like, okay, you do that. I'm going to go collapse on the bed. So I went to our bed and then I took off my sock and the tape that I had put on my foot, keep it from blistering. And where it had been hurting, I could feel it was gonna hurt when I ripped it off. But I was like,
Oh.
okay, I just got to do it.
Hmm.
So I tore this tape off my foot, and it was like so painful, like a super sharp pain in my foot for like 5 minutes. I was like, ah, God, like there wasn't any like damage to my foot, like my foot wasn't bleeding or anything, but it was just really painful.
Ouch.
And so yeah, that was basically our 24-hour walk. We had fun. It was probably our worst performance, I think, but still good time nonetheless. Um, and and then the final day, um, the final day we I just sort of hung out in my bed for a while, and eventually Lettuce got back with some souvenirs, and then we went out for a final time. We went to this went to this American burger restaurant that was really good, and they had vegan burgers. Ate those. They had a lot of good vegan options in Iceland.
Nice.
Um, and we also went to a bar that was attached to that restaurant on the other side of it and got beer and Lettuce got a pina colada. And then we went to a final bar and I got one more beer and Lettuce got a beer. And then we went back and drove back, and it was the same scenery in reverse. And on the drive back, I listened to that 192 song box set, which is almost 8 hours long, but an extremely good listen for a Beach Boys fan like myself. And it did sort of reignite a love of the Beach Boys in me because they just have they have like alternate takes and all sorts of cool stuff. Like it's not just for the casual fan. It's a really in-depth
What's it called?
exploration. Called Made in California, 1962 to 2012, and it includes two songs from That's Why God Made the Radio, their 50th anniversary album.
I see.
Uh, Also on the drive back there, we got a flat or we the belt in my tire broke, and so we had like a 2.5 hour detour of first trying to go to this one tire shop, and the guy was trying to charge me $270.
For one tire?
Well, because apparently I didn't know this. First, we went to Love's, the gas station, and they had like a little mechanic area. And I guess I should have realized it was only for trucks, but we went over and I asked, can you guys fix a flat tire on my Honda Accord? And he was like, oh, we only do trucks. But I can give you a number of someone who does do tires, who I recommend. And so we drove to that guy's tire shop because it was only 15 miles away. And my tire was still intact. It looked like it was about to burst, like the side of it was just like coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and no one was there. It looked closed. So I called the number, and no one answered. And then I looked on the back and I saw 24/7 service that the guy at the Love's had handwritten on the card. And I called that number, and then the guy on the phone he said, "I'll send my guy over." And then he came, but apparently it was an extra charge because it was like off hours. I didn't realize that it was like a special service. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the guy actually just changed. I could have done it myself because, as you know, we already did it, but he changed to my spare tire for $20. And then I said, okay, we're just going to go in town and do it for cheaper. And eventually we found a tire shop that had used tires and had one tire in my size, and they did it for $60. And this was in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hmm.
And I thought of Gene Takovec while I was there.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, and also the AC in my car was broken again.
Man.
I had a real frustrating time fixing my AC. I took it to Firestone and they're fixing it. They fixed it for free, but then they said, "Oh, you need to get a new." They were trying to figure out why it was broken, and they tried a couple different things, and they replaced my compressor multiple times, and then they said, "Oh, you need to get a new condenser. It's $600." And then I said, I'll just wait on that one. I found out that yeah, a couple days ago over the phone. I said, well, I'm in Chicago and I'll just wait to repair that. But anyways, yeah, that was our trip to Iceland and our drive there and back. We had a lot of fun. And I also listened to in the car. Lettuce played the band Violent Femmes. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No.
They have a song called Blister in the Sun, and it's really good. But I really want to listen to more of their music. They're from the '80s, and also this band called Yes, which I think there's some songs on there that I recognize, but they were also very good.
Yeah, I know a couple songs, but yes, I think. Owner of a Lowly Heart, yeah, that's a great song. Owner of a lonely heart, much better. It's a good one.
Oh, and I also listened to all of Simon and Garfunkel's albums and like five of Paul Simon's albums on the drive back.
Wow.
It was awesome.
I haven't heard any of them.
Wow.
Did you listen to Duncan?
Duncan?
Yep, by Paul Simon.
I don't know which album is that on.
Over the Bridge and Across the Water, I think. Isn't that what it's called?
Oh,
Lincoln Duncan is my name, and here's my song.
Oh,
Here's
Bridge
my
Over Troubled
song.
Water.
Yeah, yeah. What did I say?
Yeah,
Across the bridge and through the water. Isn't that what I said?
yeah, I did listen to that song.
Werner Lammerhirt. Interesting. Guess it was covered by Paul Simon, I guess. Well, I'm trying to get some sleep, but these motel walls are cheap. Lincoln Duncan is my name, and here's my song. Doesn't he look like Chuck McGill?
Paul Simon?
Yeah, in this album cover, see? Totally looks like Chuck McGill. See?
Mm, mm, no.
Yeah, not really. Sometimes I think that
Mm,
from a distance. It's like how I think the guy on the billboard is Homelander.
mm.
That's a different story.
Yeah, well,
Sailing Olympics. Have you been
oh, it
keeping up with the Olympics?
also, uh, on the way back from Iceland, on the plane ride from Montreal, or from Montreal to Chicago, me and Lettuce both watched Before Sunrise.
Oh.
Uh,
I see. That's why you
that's
keep it
when we
on.
watched it.
Any thoughts
And
on Before Sunrise? The Richard Linklater film?
I think it's a great movie, um, and it is just I don't know, it's almost frustrating for me because it makes me wish that I could be in such a beautiful whirlwind romance as they have in Before Sunrise. It just made me realize how sad and alone I am. Um, but it's just a uh, very sweet movie. It's just one night in Vienna where Ethan Hawke, Ethan Hawke's character goes up to Julie Delpy's character on the train and starts talking to her, and they just strike up this natural chemistry very easily, and it all happens very just naturally. And Ethan Hawke's like, "Hey, I have a crazy idea. I have a layover. I have one night in Vienna, and then I have to take a plane back home. Do you want to get off the train and spend the night with me, just walking around because I don't have enough money for a hotel?" And so that's like the whole movie. It's just like them kind of walking around the city, getting talking to each other, and they have these very kind of intelligent, kind of philosophical conversations a lot of the time, and yeah, it's just a very sweet movie, and um, yeah, very good. So
Sounds good.
it is good, yes. In fact, I was thinking of recommending it to you as my recommendation of the month.
Oh, all right.
You you say uh-oh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how come?
Because they have, I don't know, actually no reason. I could just watch them.
Oh, okay.
Just because I'm planning to watch them one a year, but I could just start
Wait, isn't
this year.
couldn't this just be the start of the year?
Yeah, it could just be the start.
Is that movie? Are those movies on your poster?
No, the Before
Oh,
Sunrises. No, the Before trilogy. No.
all right. Well, would you like to discuss something else now?
Yes. I would like to discuss Children of the Corn Runaway. And I would actually like to issue a retraction and correction. I, I said that the previous one was about a mother and son. But that was actually what this one is about. The previous one was about a couple, and they got caught up with this weird guy, and who had the guy locked in a shed. There was that makes more sense now. They were throwing the cars at the couple as they were leaving, not at the mom, because I think they both had pretty bad fates in this one, Runaway. This one was about the mom and the son. Um, there was a waitress. I wasn't sure what anybody's motivation was. There was a little romance with this guy who had a limp, and he was also her boss, and they were he was a mechanic. But then they tried to have sex, and she was like, "I can't do it. I can't do it." I forgot why. Because I think she was because she was a Children of the Corn, and so she got triggered.
Mm,
She said, "I can't. I'm sorry," and then he got mad, and then this girl ended up killing him. Oh
mm.
yeah, and there was also a killer little girl, but I didn't really understand why she was there. I didn't understand anybody's motivation. There was also a waitress
Mm.
character who was bonding with the son, but I didn't understand what she was doing. And then the son became a Children of the Corn, I think, but I wasn't really sure why.
Are you talking about Are you talking about the movie? Are you talking about what the actual movie earlier you watched was?
I'm
Are
talking
you
about
talking
what
about?
this movie is about. I had a mostly accurate description of the previous one. It's just that the main characters were switched.
I'd say.
Instead of a son and daughter, it was a couple, boyfriend and girlfriend. In this one, it's son and daughter. Children of the Corn Runaway from 2018, which I watched
I
on
see.
TV. Um, yes, and then I wrote because I was amused because I was going crazy because I was just watching Children of the Corn movies and being bored, and anytime it would reveal, anytime it would reveal the character's backstory throughout any of the movies, it would all lead back to Gatlin. So I was thinking like, you're not from Gatlin, are you? I thought that was funny in my head. It was amusing me, like if the character said that.
Mm.
It's very funny. If you watched 11 Children of the Corn movies, you would get it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. So that was Children of the Corn Runaway. Gave that a 1.5 stars out of 5, or 3 out of 10, whichever way you want to call it. Uh, and then I watched Pet Sematary, the 2019 remake, which we watched in theaters for what I think our dad just wanted to take us.
Because he
Um,
was really excited about his AMC
yeah,
pass.
yeah,
So he went to, it was a period where he was seeing a lot of movies at the AMC.
yeah. This one was not too bad. It was almost better than the original, even though it strayed a lot further from the story. The original was just kind of, except for Judd Crandall's actor, who now I'm forgetting, but iconic Hollywood actor. He played Frankenstein. Um, Not Boris Karloff. What's his name? Not Boris Karloff. Let's see. I have to look up the actor's name. Great actor. Fred Gwynn. Fred Gwynn. Yeah, he was really good as the original Judd. Judd in this one was played by John Lithgow. He was all right, not as good as Judd in the original though. But basically, it took the main premise and flipped it. The daughter dies instead of the son, and then from then on, it pretty much divulges a lot, or diverts a lot. I don't think divulges is the right word. That means to share information, I think. If you divulge
To
something.
share like secret information.
Uh-huh. Diverted from the original plot line. And eventually, I don't know if you remember really, but it ends with like all bringing, like, the girl kills her dad and he brings him back as a zombie, and then he kills the wife and they come back as a zombie. And then the end scene is them all coming to Gage when he's locked in the car and they're all zombies, and he goes, and it ends. It's very funny.
So they're just a zombie family together?
Yeah, they just became a zombie family. And of course, I
That's
remember a iconic Red Letter Media moment where Jay's talking about it. He said it at the end. It really develops to the point of ludicrousy, where I was practically laughing, and then Mike goes, "Ludicrous is in it," and then he sets down his mug and goes, and he laughs. And I was like, "Yeah, that's funny." Classic.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I thought it was definitely scarier, especially than the original. Mainly, not for the same reasons. I think the main reason why I thought the Pet Sematary book was so creepy. I mean, the main plot line is just tragic of Gage dying and how much it goes into it, and especially when he fights his stepdad. Very not fun. But the creepy part of the book is just the cat walking around and just knowing he's there and just lurking, and everyone. It describes how like everyone just like subconsciously pushes him away because they are like repulsed by him. Um, in the movie, the original one, he's more violent and angry. Same thing kind of in this one, but the creepy part was, I don't know, it was probably just cliche, but it was the girl comes back as the daughter, and half of the movie is like her as a zombie, whereas the book and the original movie, like the last 10 minutes, Gage comes back and then it ends pretty much. And this one, she's like, she like remembers herself. She's like, "Am I dead?" But then there was one very creepy scene where he was brushing her hair in the tub. And I remembered that from watching it in the theaters. And he's like brushing her hair, and like a piece of scalp comes out with it. She has like a droopy, like dead eye, like kind of lazy eye, where like one eye's like drooping like this the whole time. She's like, "Am I dead, Daddy?" It's very creepy.
Wow.
But maybe that probably just because that's the cliche creepy little girl thing. But I was pretty unnerved by that little section. But other than that, the whole rest of the movie wasn't really scary. It's just generic violence and stuff in a horror movie. It was all right, almost better than the original, but they're both not that great. Just because the original book is so much better, especially Lewis's insanity, just the way he rationalizes everything. Can't translate that, and that was the best part. So that was Pet Sematary. Then I watched. Let's see. Then I watched the final Children of the Corn movie, which I actually kind of
Idle.
enjoyed. Definitely the best out of the ones I watched this month, by far, by far. This one actually came out in 2023, I think, last year. I think this, according to Wikipedia, this was the third theatrical Children of the Corn movie. First one since the 80s. First two came out in theaters, and everything else was direct to video. And then this one was it. They said it was a remake, but they said it's a retelling of the classic story. So it really could just be another one in the Children of the Corn series. But this one was pretty fun, actually. The main child of the corn was this girl who just wanted to kill everybody, and she was very fun to watch. Good actor. She was probably 14, maybe 13. But it was fun. She had a scene where she knocked all the adults out with halothane. They didn't show how it did it, actually. The writing was very bad, and it didn't show how it happened, but the adults eventually all got locked up in the jail cell at the sheriff's station, and then she squirts halothane into there to knock them all out to get revenge because that's what they did to her fellow children of the corn. They knocked them all out with halothane for some reason to kill one of the children of the corn, but it ended up killing all of them, I think. So she gets her revenge by knocking them out, and then they all wake up in a big pit of dirt, and then they start just burying them. It's funny. And then there was another scene at the beginning where all the children were playing pirates or whatever, and they had one kid super high up walking the plank. They were nudging him, and it looked like he was actually gonna die. It was a lot funnier in the moment. Oh yeah, and then there was another funny part. There was another funny part that I was actually laughing of the ridiculousness and ludicrousy of it, as Jay would say.
Ludicrous is in this movie?
Exactly. There was a scene where they're having a town hall meeting because their whole town, their whole economy from the town was based on their corn, and they were saying we need to get subsidies from the government and they'll pay us not to grow corn. And then the main, not the main bad girl, but the main good girl was saying, we can't do that. We have to talk about this. We can still make it work. And then all the adults turned around and said, "You're a kid!" And then literally all the adults turn around and just laugh at her. And then they all just laugh at all the kids, and it's just super ridiculous. They're all just going, "Ha ha ha!" Basically like that. And they all just got laughed out of the meeting. And I thought that was very funny. And that's why the girl had her revenge, because she hated all the adults. Yeah. Oh, and then I did reread the original short story before I watched this final movie, just to reminisce and recap. And the short story was better than every single one of the movies. Yes.
Wow.
It was only 30 pages. A lot better.
3 pages?
30.
Look at how bad my receding hairline is.
Yeah. I'm mostly worried about this section. I stare at it. Ooh, dandruff. Ew, that's disgusting. That is disgusting. I like this section.
You're worried?
I like this section in the short story where the main character was having his inner monologue, and he was imagining the mummified corpses saying, "It's not so bad. Having your eyes ripped out and sacrificed to pagan children, it's not so bad." Very eerie. That's how he imagined his dead wife and the policemen were talking to him as corpses. Very good stuff. Love it when he writes like that. Okay. Then I watched The Boogeyman, which is actually not too bad. I expected it to be a lot worse. I watched it last year when it came out in theaters, but I slept through some of it, a little bit of it, and wasn't really very enthusiastic. I watched it with Ben John and Christian back when I was visiting for the H3 show last year. But anyway, it's based on the short story from Night Shift, which is only about 10 pages. I reread this one as well, just because I wanted to refresh. And it basically, the short story was about this guy who's talking to his therapist, or not his therapist, he's just a therapist that he like finds out about because he's so depressed and desperate to tell someone his story. And he tells the story about how like one by one all three of his kids were murdered, and it's how he thinks it's his fault because every time the boogeyman killed him, his kids, and he didn't believe it until the third one died, and he realized, oh man, there's actually a boogeyman, and he was talking to him, the therapist, and telling his story about this, and then at the end it's revealed that the therapist was the boogeyman the whole time, and that was actually a very dumb ending, like something I would think of, which is a really dumb ending. He said, and at the end he saw that the boogeyman was still holding the therapist's mask face. I was like, it's pretty silly. So they kind of took that very core, just idea of the super disturbed guy talking to a therapist, and they made a feature film. And the therapist was the dad. He has two daughters now, and the girl has a fear of the dark. She always has lights on in her room, and she has a reason to do that because there's a boogeyman. And the guy that comes in and needs the therapy eventually kills himself that same day in his daughter's bedroom or their closet. And then from that, he passes on the boogeyman to that family, and then it starts to haunt them. And they're also recently grieving the loss of their mother. So really the boogeyman represents grief and loss at the end. Yeah, but it was not as bad as I thought it would be. It was pretty good acting. I thought the bullies were pretty ridiculous. There was this one girl who was just like unrealistically horrible. It was like Malfoy level of just saying, haha, your parents are dead, pretty much. And she was like, why is she being so weird? Like, And she shows up to, like, the daughter who lost her mom shows up to school on her first day back after bereavement with, like, in her mom's, like, shirt, I think, or, like, her jacket, and she says, oh, this was my mom's, and the girl was like, wow, that's a little creepy. I was like, wow, that's not very nice.
Wow.
Yeah. But overall, it was pretty good. There was a pretty, it wasn't very scary, but it was pretty silly because the therapist of the two daughters, their dad's friend, because he's also a therapist, so he knows other therapists. He introduces their daughters to her, and she does this little thing. She's like, we're going to get you over your fear of the dark by having this light on that flashes. It's a red light, and it's going to flash off and on. It'll flash off, and then on, and then off, and then on, and slowly pick up until it's strobing, and then it'll just be on. And you'll see that there's nothing there in between the darkness and the light, and there's no boogeyman. But then there is a boogeyman, and it plays it up very funny and just clicks every time it clicks off. It's very creepy, and there's music, and then I thought it was just very funny. There's just one shot of it's all bathed in red, and the therapist is like, her character's trying to like assure the little girl that there's nothing to be afraid of, but she's like giving a big creepy smile, and she's like, with red light. I was like, wow, that's pretty funny. And her glasses were like reflecting in a very creepy way, and she has a very demonic smile. I was like, wow, that's not gonna help this girl at all. Yeah. And then Mike and Jay talked about it for 2 minutes on one of their catch-ups, so that was also fun to watch. And Mike enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Not too bad. Yeah. Let's see here. Do you have anything to talk about? Or I could just keep going with books.
Well, I also watched The Return of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Yeah, nice. The Return of the King, where Aragorn sits on his throne. Middle Earth is saved by the smallest of things.
Well, actually, as a matter of that we'll talk about that a little later. But actually, I did want to say that I did watch a couple of episodes of.
You said you watched a bunch of TV.
I watched a couple of episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Nice. Just random ones, or you're trying to do episodically?
Well, when I was on the plane, they had season 10 and season 11, I think. But they only had like the first couple episodes of each season. Mm-hmm. So I just watched those, and I was a little confused about some of the plot lines, but I think mostly, Well, I mean, at first I was unsure about I didn't realize. Well, actually, I should have watched them in a reverse order. I actually watched season 11 and then I watched season 10. So season 11 they have like Larry is doing his young Larry show, and there's like the
Yeah, that was
obnoxious
probably
girl.
my least favorite plot of all the seasons. Was the young lady? That's pretty forgettable. And that girl was pretty obnoxious. Season 10 is better
Yeah.
with Latte Larry, much better.
Um, and I didn't know who's the black guy called? What's his name?
Leon,
Yeah, I didn't know.
what the
I
fuck,
guess
Larry?
he's a big character.
Yeah,
Hey,
Leon's awesome.
because I'd seen the first,
Leon is the Kramer of Curb.
so I'd seen the very first episode, and I hadn't seen anything else, so I didn't know
Yeah,
who that was.
yeah. Leon doesn't come in until season 6.
But mostly you don't really need to understand what's going on because it's mostly just the funny situations.
You don't.
Um, yeah, it's a funny show. Larry David's pretty funny the way he sees things and the way he always argues for his position.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think he's just a cool guy. He has very good style
He is.
also.
Yep. He seems to
Um,
take care of himself. He's always very healthy.
yes.
Yeah.
I,
Much
I saw
cooler
an
guy
interview
than
with
Jerry
him.
Seinfeld.
I saw an interview with him saying he would never have more than one slice of pizza uh, in a sitting. That was just ridiculous to him. He couldn't imagine doing that. So no wonder he's so healthy. Um, and then also when I got back to Chicago, um, I watched a couple of episodes of the first season um, with Ian and also by myself. And the one I'm remembering is one where he jams his, or we watched the one where he's trying to get this necklace because he was watching the football game when his wife returned back from a
Mm-hmm.
trip, and then him and Richard Lewis get in a battle
They think he's
to try to
homeless.
get the necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
It's
And
pretty
then
good.
I liked how in that episode he does that battle. In the next episode he just says, "Oh, I jammed my finger in a little fight when he's at the doctor's office." And then the next episode is about him. Um, he does a funny he does a funny thing where he says that it's ridiculous that
Mm-hmm.
they call by who signs in first and not by the appointment. And then at the end, he's like, "Why
You
would you just
changed
change
it?
the policy?"
Why would you listen to me? I don't know anything. So what you're really
Yeah,
saying is that the policy is just so that you should go first whenever. Yes, exactly.
yeah,
Pretty funny.
it's very funny stuff. Well, yeah, and so maybe I'll watch more of it sometime, but who knows?
You gotta watch Seinfeld first, though, Zach, to get it. Especially when you watch season 7. You won't appreciate season 7 if you haven't watched Seinfeld. Or at least a lot of
Okay,
episodes of Seinfeld. You don't have to watch the whole thing,
well,
but just be familiar with the main cast.
I understand. I've seen some of Seinfeld. Like I understand what the show is. I
Yeah, but
understand what it
you
is.
don't know
I know the
Newman. You don't know
characters.
Newman and George's mom and everybody.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just watch up until season 6 and then skip season 7 and move on to season 8. How's that?
No, because that wouldn't work because there's continuity, especially at the end of season 7. That plot line goes right into season 8.
Well, I think I'm just gonna watch Curb Your Enthusiasm before I watch Seinfeld. If I ever do watch Seinfeld, I don't know. I feel like it is funnier. I feel like Curb Your Enthusiasm is just funnier than Seinfeld, and it's not like a sitcom with a laugh track. I feel like it's superior just based
It's
on this episodes I've seen of Seinfeld versus the episodes I've seen of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, but you just have to get into the dynamic. You have to get sucked into the camaraderie, as Jackson said about Red Letter Media.
Camaraderie, yeah.
Anyway, I like how Jerry is obsessed with Superman. It's very funny. But anyway,
Also obsessed with cereal, apparently.
yeah, those are his two funniest traits. He loves Superman. There's like one part where he says like, "Hey, I'll let you talk bad about me, but don't you say anything bad about Superman." It's funny.
That's funny.
He's like a man child. It's very funny, his character. Anyway, though. Any other shows? You described that you watched a bunch of TV shows, but so far it seems like you just watched some episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Um,
Any other TV?
I think. Well, I did watch one or two episodes of Always Sunny in Philadelphia also because
Hmm.
Ian was playing it in the background. Um,
Which episodes?
can't. I think it was. Oh no, I watched the episode where they found out that Charlie's apartment has a bathroom and a second bed.
Oh yeah, that was from the brand new season. That was a
Oh
pretty big
really?
reveal. Yeah. We always wondered what was behind that other door, and they finally revealed it.
Um,
That was the highlight of that new season. The new season wasn't very good, in my opinion.
oh really?
At least
It's
a
a
lot of the
shame.
episodes. It's kind of losing its edge.
Uh, uh, yeah, I think I watched one other, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah. And then I also watched the first season of this. I watched it all in one day just because I was looking on Apple TV and I was like, oh, I want to watch something. So I watched the show The Morning Show.
Hmm. Apple TV Plus.
Apparently there's three seasons of it, but I don't plan on watching any more of it. But it was good. It was had Jennifer Aniston in it as the main character, but it was all just kind of about like TV network politics almost, like executives fighting each other, and also it was a lot about like the Me Too movement and Steve Carell. It starts out with basically um, Steve Carell and Jennifer Aniston are hosting a show, a morning news show together, and the first episode they find out that Steve Carell is being accused of like sexual misconduct in the office, and so it's about the new anchor that comes in to replace Steve Carell, and it's also just about kind of the fallout from that happening and the network trying to sort of scramble and figure out how to cover themselves. And this new anchor who comes in is kind of like a she kind of like a girl who kind of like speaks the truth kind of and doesn't really like the very stiff kind of scripted type of news where you're just reading from a script. And um, it's almost like the Today Show where it's like they're just all happy and they have like fun like uplifting stories and they don't really get too serious. And she's trying to like change things. So there's like that going on, and there's also the dynamic of Steve Carell's character, who's the one who is accused of sexual misconduct. And I thought the best part of it was sort of the way that they kind of talked about the nuance of like Me Too allegations and things like that. Because the thing is, like in the show, they show Steve Carell kind of being creepy. No, actually no, they show him not being creepy. They show him as a very loved guy, beloved guy, and they show him as just someone who's kind of like very casual about making like kind of playfully flirting with people on the set, and people kind of are laughing and are I don't know, they're playing along and they seem kind of comfortable with it. They like him as a person, but he has like had affairs with multiple people on the cast or on the in the crew, but like consensual affairs, um, or maybe there's a little bit of like abuse of power, but also it seems kind of um, seems like a very mutual sort of thing, and so it's like I don't know, they kind of make it a little bit more nuanced and they kind of make you think about, oh, like who really deserves to be like I guess completely have their life ruined. I don't know, it's just interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't really have any interest in watching it more. It also had Mark Duplass in it from Paddleton and also from other movies which I haven't seen, but
Yes, I
he's
know of
always
Paddleton.
he's he's always good.
Interesting. The morning show, yeah, that was one of the original Apple TV flagship shows. I was
Yep.
looking it up. I saw pictures of Jennifer Aniston covered in oil. I'm not sure if this is part of the show or this was just a picture of her. apparently she got people were mad at her about what she said about JD Vance. Um, but
What should she
have you
say
heard anything
about
about this?
JD Vance?
I don't know. I have no idea. Probably nothing good, since he's a freak. This is her covered in oil. She looks very angry, apparently. Oops. See? I don't know what this is about, though. Gets oil thrown at her while filming the morning show. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is just. Yeah, I think this is just part of the show, probably. I would guess. Anyway. Cool. Oops.
I felt for some reason I felt like I watched more some other TV show, but I don't think I did. I think either I've completely forgot it, so it wasn't that memorable, or when I said I watched a bunch of TV, I really just meant that I watched some TV, which for me is a bunch.
Hmm. Well, I've been pretty. Well, actually, not really, because I've been rewatching other shows. But I was gonna start Ozark, but then I didn't because I was watching The Boys and The Bear and rewatching other shows. So I'm probably gonna put a pause on other shows for the next month, probably still until I finish The Bear. Then I'll watch Ozark. Too many
What
shows.
other show? What are you rewatching?
Well, I'm with my FRR Patreon uh, subscription. They do full length reactions, and they're watching Barry and Succession. So I'm rewatching those. I've seen Barry multiple times, but I didn't watch any other more of Succession since I first watched it. That was over a year ago. And boy, I'll just talk about Succession because that is an excellent show. Boy, initially I had it like under, it was like S tier and then A tier, but now I'll put it in S tier along with them. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man, it's amazing. It's
Is it
about
better than Breaking Bad?
I don't know. In ways, I don't know. Breaking Bad is just I don't even want to say that because there's a lot of really slow, good moments. I don't know. I just kind of dismissed Breaking Bad in my mind for some reason.
What would you say was what would you say was the first show that you ever considered to be your favorite show?
Uh, well, I guess My Little Pony would be the first one, but after that, I'd say The Walking Dead. I really liked The Walking Dead for a bit, and then Breaking Bad was pretty much my goat until like last year, pretty much when I watched The Wire.
Wow. And now you've become completely disillusioned by it and you think it's just a shit show?
No, I don't think it's a shit show. Just in my head, all I think is of is Gus. He's cartoony, so I dismiss
Hmm.
it. But even The Wire has a character named Brother Muzone who's pretty animated. He's like, anyway, we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to go into Brother Muzone. But Succession is just, I don't know. Number one, it's funny as fuck. It's probably the funniest show out there. Different, just because of the absurdity of how these people are. Curb Your Enthusiasm is like tightly woven comedy plot points, but just some of the shit that these characters say is just so out of pocket sometimes, and it just makes you cackle. At least it makes me cackle. But I just finished season 1, and I just watched the first episode of season 2. But man, season 1 is really great. Especially, a lot more I picked up on, and I cried after the 6th episode, and I didn't even remember the ending when I watched it the first time. But yeah, the ending of the 6th episode when it's just Kendall standing, and people are walking by him, and life moves on. That was a great ending. Yeah, I cried after that one, just because of how well done it was, and man, really good stuff. But the ending of season 1 is really shocking. Not to spoil anything, but definitely not what you'd expect. What happens there, but I don't know how much you know, but basically it's about a media empire run by this really old guy named Logan, and he founded it and is still the CEO. And his rich, spoiled children all want a piece of the pie. And the main character Kendall thinks he's really capable of doing it, but in reality, he is not. And he just keeps kind of fucking up and just worrying too much and just not having the confidence to do the job. Especially in episode 6. Like, if he just would have chilled back and not stressed about it too much, not to spoil it, and not done what he did, it probably would have gone all right, and he probably would have won. But anyways, basically the entire show is just the dad, Logan, fucking with his kids and just playing with their minds. And he just knows them to a T, and he knows that none of them are really going to be good at it, and he just kind of plays with them. And he's a really bad parent and a really bad person. He just manipulates them. And they're all so desperate for his approval. And, yeah. Kieran Culkin's character is, like, just so fucked in the head. Roman. He's like a sexual freak. I think one of the first or second episodes, it shows a scene where he like closes all the blinds in his office and just jerks off onto his giant window skyscraper view of New York. And he comes on the window and just spits on it and cleans it up with a tissue, and then goes back to work. He has like inadequacy fetishes, which gets explored later on, especially in season 2. Great plot lines, the way it develops, man. Jerry's a great character, but yeah, the main characters, all 4 of the kids. The main 3 that are Logan's real kids. Connor, Alan Ruck's character, is his first kid, but he's the main 3 siblings' half brother, because he's Logan's son, but they don't share the same mother. And he's just kind of out there doing his own thing the whole time. He has this prostitute who becomes his girlfriend later on, and throughout the show you just see their relationship develop, and she's just trapped. She's just basically being paid to be his girlfriend, and he is just lots of funny characters. Except for Shiv and Kendall aren't very funny because they take themselves too seriously. Well, and Connor does too, but it's the zero self-awareness that he has that makes him funny. And Roman, Kieran Culkin's character, just the shit he says almost is always funny. But yeah. Can't wait to continue the series. Can't wait to see their reactions to it. But mostly I'm just enjoying rewatching it. And eventually, whenever my other 2 favorite reactors, these Syrian girls, Milena and Lola from LM Reactions, they're eventually going to react to The Sopranos sometime, probably at the end of the year, and can't wait for that. Then I'll rewatch The Sopranos, and they always get really attached to the characters and cry at like every episode once they're fully like into the story and they can sympathize. Like if anything remotely sad happens, they're just bawling immediately. So I enjoy their reactions for that. They have really good in-depth, like they're very emotionally intelligent, and they just really understand the characters really well, like immediately. They have good discussions at the end. And then these other guys that I'm watching Succession with, they're just more funny. They kind of just joke. They're friends, so they just joke about it. And they also have good discussions and predictions at the end and whatnot. But it's fun. And I'm also watching Barry. I've watched the first 2 seasons now with that channel.
So you just have like your phone playing the reaction and then your TV playing the show?
I have my mod. I set it at my computer, so I have the reaction on one screen, video on the other screen. And the way they do it is they just watch it, and they have a little screen, and they both watch it in front of a green screen, so they can just put themselves over it. And in the full length, they have no audio, but the full videos, and I just sync it up and have the audio playing. So it's fun. I'm watching Barry as well. Not too much to say about that. You've already, you never finished it. You only watched the first 2 seasons, huh?
Yeah. Only watched the first 2 seasons.
First 2 seasons is the first 2 seasons are super different from the last 2. Definitely a very recognizable immediate tonal shift after the end of the second season, gets a lot less funny, even though there's
Hmm.
still kind of surreal elements and humor. Yeah, it just really gets dark really fast. And Barry's character shifts. Like, yeah, he gets a lot more sick in the head and not a lot more non like functioning member of society. But it's fun, yeah. So that's Succession. It's really great. Mount Rushmore. Still have to rewatch Sopranos because there's a lot of stuff in The Sopranos that I did not get or really catch, especially with all the politics of the gangs and everything. But right now, I'd say Wire, and then I don't know, maybe Succession, and then Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul. There's one little jumble, but
Nice.
yeah, yeah, Wire's still the goat. Nothing tops the Wire. But yeah,
Wire.
let's see here. Let's see here. We talk about Pet Cemetery Bloodlines.
Actually, before you do it, Kevin, I just remembered that I did
Oh
actually
yes.
read like the first 30 pages of a book
Oh yeah.
while I was while we were driving to Chicago. I read the first 30 pages of this philosophy book by Albert Camus called The Myth of Sisyphus.
Hmm.
And I really want to finish it eventually, but the problem with it is that it's basically like it's a big essay talking about why you shouldn't kill yourself. It starts off by saying there's only one serious philosophical problem, and that is that of suicide. Basically saying, why don't we just all kill ourselves? Like, what's even the point? Um, and the whole book is trying to say why you shouldn't kill yourself without appealing to any sort of higher power or anything. It's very complicated,
Hmm.
but it was interesting to read, very hard to read. Philosophy books are kind of contain like big long sentences with that just wind and just kind of go on, and you have to like go back because they'll like refer to something within a sentence and you forgot what they're already referring to within that same sentence. You have to reread it.
Hmm.
And he's constantly referencing other philosophers and like, oh well, this guy said this, but that's not really true, and this guy argued for that, but whatever. And I don't know, but the one thing that was really interesting to me is he was talking about the feeling of absurdism, of feeling like this is all just so like existence is all just so weird and and like we're all just here and we all just pretend that things matter um
Hmm.
and how that's like a feeling you can have.
Yeah, I definitely relate to
um
that.
and I've had that feeling too. He said the feeling of absurdity can strike any man at any time on any street corner,
Hmm.
or something like that. And yeah, it's just interesting. So
Yeah, like
um
you say, yeah. Not obviously, I don't agree with that. There's no inherent meaning. I think there is. Obviously, existence has meaning and purpose. Um, but like what you're saying is like we're just here. Like I think that when people are like just bigoted, or it's like, why do you care? We're just here. You know,
mhm.
it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Let's just be nice. We're just here.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
If sometimes if I just am laying in bed for long enough, I'll start thinking about, man, this none of this is all so strange that we're all here.
It
And you
is
contemplate things
strange.
like that.
We're just going. We just keep going.
And there's just so much is always happening, and it's hard to get your head straight in this world when things are always happening at you, and you always have to keep on going in order to keep your head above water.
Mm-hmm. Want to have a political discussion for our viewers?
Sure, what about?
What are your thoughts on Joe Biden dropping out of the race and Kamala stepping in?
I think at first I was like, oh, when it happened, I was like, oh, I don't think I think Trump's gonna win now at this point because
Yeah,
I
especially
feel
after
like
the
it's just
assassination attempt.
after the assassination attempt. But now I'm thinking that I think that the Democratic Party has a much better chance of actually winning because I think that Kamala Harris is a good. I mean, she's just a much more appealing candidate than Joe Biden. I mean, she can like
Competent.
talk.
She
She's
can talk.
competent. She can talk like a normal person. Like,
She's still not young. She's 60 apparently, but there is just a stark difference between the energy of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And yeah, man, I just really hate Trump. I just really want him to lose. Like I really
yeah,
hope he just dies of like some painful, slow disease. Did you see the thing
yeah,
about the black conference when he said like he was interviewed, like he was in a crowd of black audience members and the interviewers were black. Like he was like the only white guy in the entire room, and he was like just saying the same stuff. He's like, Kamala's not even black. She's Indian. She decided she was black one day. I don't know what's up with her. And then he referred to black jobs. He also said, "There's rapists and insane people coming in taking black jobs." And everyone like goes, "Ooh!" Like the audience was awesome. They were just like, especially when they introduced him, like no one clapped. It's a great video. I watched it on H3, but
I see.
yeah, and yeah, and especially the whole thing they were setting up, like Trump was saying he's inept, he's old. Now he's the old one. He got 20 years on Kamala, so it's like, man,
It's true. I mean, I feel like there's not a lot to criticize about Kamala Harris. I mean, Joe Biden, I mean, I agree, I don't think he was competent. I mean, I think he was probably would be a competent, like, day-to-day president of, like, actually doing stuff, maybe. But in terms of his actual ability to, like, seem as, like, a leader, speak, in the classic way a president might speak, like FDR having his fireside chats over the radio. Like, that's what I really want out of the president. I want a president who will bring back the FDR's fireside chats.
hmm.
You know about those?
I don't actually really, but I should look into that. It's cool.
FDR during the war, he used to just like broadcast, like he would just kind of speak on the radio and almost just as if he was talking directly to America.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool. Yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
like I feel like it's just so objective that like not Democrats, but at least just like my beliefs are just objectively correct. Like it's just like I don't understand how people think Trump is in any way a good person or has anyone's best interest in mind.
I agree. Sometimes I'm like, I
It's
think
just
like,
baffling. I mean, it's one thing if you're just also as bigoted as him, but like, it's also like he pretends to be a Christian and he's just so obviously not. He doesn't believe in anything. It's just weird.
mhm. I think that, you know, I've always thought that it's just weird. It's just weird to imagine being conservative and thinking that you're like in the right or like you're on the right side of history. Because it just seems to me like the track of history is always us getting more progressive. And I mean, it's in the name for progress.
Mm-hmm.
It feels almost conservative in the name. It just feels like, oh, we're trying to not progress as a society. That's literally what like conservative like thought is, which I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not saying like we should just run away with all liberal ideas instantly no matter what. I think that maybe having that conservative force of trying to rein maybe some extreme liberal things in, it's sort of a good system to have, but at the same time that I feel like we just need to be more. I, I feel like conservative the amount that conservatives want to conserve things is too extreme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like you were when you were saying, remember the debate? You were like, I wish they had a way to like fact check Trump. He's just lying at every single sentence he says. At that convention with all the black people, he said, there's people doing 8-month, 9-month abortions, and then she immediately says that's illegal in all 50 states, and he completely ignores her and just keeps talking. And at the beginning of the whole interview, she says, there's live fact checking online. You can check your phone for anything he says, basically. And also, it's supposed to be like an hour-long interview, but his team cut him short at half an hour because he was bombing so hard.
Wow.
And he's a coward and won't debate Kamala, apparently, because now
Oh,
he realizes
really?
he doesn't have a chance. I would
Wow.
really like to imagine that he's very scared right now. Sometimes I just think about people like him or Ryan Kavanaugh. I've just, especially because I've been watching a bunch of Ryan Kavanaugh stuff, rewatching it. It's very entertaining. Man, that guy's pathetic. It's like just complete delusion, man. Like, you're not even like a person. Like sometimes I think like we're the real people here. Like we're living. We're kind and we enjoy each other's company, but there's just people who are just miserable and just don't want people to be happy. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, I think that someone like Trump, I think that I feel as if there's a deep facade going on, and that the very core of his being is a scared little boy uh, uh, trapped away in a pit of self-protective uh, behaviors, and that everything that he says or does is not even it's like I don't know, it's just like a character. It's like he's outside of himself or something. Like like in terms of imagining him as an actual human being, like I think that's
Like, what is he
that's what it
doing
is.
right now? What does he do
Yeah,
in his free time?
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Also, he's friends with Jeffrey Epstein, so it's like so clearly, obviously, he's like a rapist, horrible rapist, criminal, evil person. But apparently, it's not clicking for some people. I don't know. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Damn it. Just lost again.
Man,
I'm just trying to get 2048. If I ever get 2048, I'm going to stop playing this game. I had 1024 and a 1 5 12 tile, Kevin.
hmm. You're close.
I was close, but now I have to try again.
Hmm.
Well,
Well, anyway, go out and vote in November.
hmm
Even though sometimes I feel like
Is Utah a red state,
oh,
Kevin?
definitely, yeah. Are you kidding me? I think Utah is one of the most corrupt states in the country.
Corrupt?
Yeah, I believe so.
How so?
I don't know. I just saw a billboard that one time driving
Oh,
back home. Well, it's one of the most corrupt countries. But I mean, everyone's Mormon here.
yeah, I guess it is sort of.
LDS owns the government here. It's very crazy. Also, there's just been this construction project that has not had any progress in the past year. It's just there every day. And I just feel like there's money laundering with the construction projects here. That's my theory.
Hmm.
Some sort of money laundering with construction. Just endless construction. The roads are always being redone, even though they're fine.
Hmm.
I don't get it.
Speaking of roads, you know that the uh the road in front of my street, Flournoy Street, literally right in front of our apartment, a couple days ago, we were having a Ian, my roommate, was having a birthday party, and we went outside for a bit, and we noticed that there was water seeping out of the street, like out of like cracks in the street,
Hmm.
um, in multiple locations. And there was one area where water was like coming out, not like intensely like a geyser, but just kind of streaming out of a hole in the ground. And then someone called the 311, I guess the emergency like service um, line, and they like jackhammered the road out and like fixed a pipe in there or something. And right now it's still like covered, and you can like see into the road. They like put like gravel under it to cover it or something, but it's very interesting.
Very interesting. Maybe that's the problem. There's just broken pipes all over the place.
Yeah, and our water pressure was low while it was happening, so it was definitely R type.
All right, Zach. I have got 7 more things to talk about.
All right.
All right. Let's see. Talk about my favorite book I read in July, which is *The Eyes of the Dragon* by Stephen King. Um, Apparently, his daughter Naomi wanted him to write more of a younger audience book, so he wrote this for her. This takes place in this kind of medieval kingdom called Delane, and it's about this king and his 2 sons, and how his oldest and first son is destined to be a righteous and good ruler, and possibly the best king the kingdom has ever seen. And his younger son is kind of pathetic and jealous of his older brother. And then there is this sorcerer slash advisory councilman to the king named Flag. And if that name sounds familiar to you, that's because it's the same Randall Flagg from The Stand, and the same Randall Flagg that pops up in all of Stephen King's different stories. And from what I can gather, this is Flagg's first canonical appearance, only a couple thousand years into his life, and it's he basically, his plan is to frame the good king to be Peter for the murder of his father, and then to bring in the younger son as king, and basically just use him as a puppet and slowly raise taxes and bring the kingdom into anarchy and chaos for the next 1,000 years, because that is basically Randall Flagg's entire reason for living, and what brings him the most happiness is just to ensue absolute chaos and disorder. And he basically gets away with that plan and frames him. And this is all like the way Stephen King writes some of his stories, especially this one. He tells what's going to happen 200 pages down the road, like in the first couple chapters. And this one was especially cool because he wrote from the perspective of like a narrator, and he said, "But this is a question I leave for you to decide." And he like describes how the younger son Thomas, he was always jealous of his older brother who was supposed to be the good king, and it described this whole story of how he spent all day making this wooden boat for his dad because he cherished this memory of the day they spent, just him and his dad, sailing little toy boats on the moat outside the castle. And he spent all day and got many, many cuts on his hands from carving it with his knife. And he presents it to him at the end of the day, and his dad just kind of blows it off. He says, "This is nice, but if you really want to impress me, you should practice archery and become a great archer like your brother Peter." But he already was an archer, and he actually was better than Peter, and that was the one of the few things he took after his father, as was skilled at more action violence based things than wisdom. And that day he threw rocks at a dog until it died, and no one saw that except Flag, and he said, "I'm going to keep that in mind." And at the end of that little section he said, "And once again I say that Thomas was not a bad boy, just a troubled boy. But ultimately I leave it for you to decide what you think." And he said that a lot during the story. But not to spoil what eventually happens, but yeah. It's not really spoiled because they describe like, and by the end of the day, King Peter was framed, and he was up in the tower, and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't pick up on a lot of the connections the first time. Obviously I knew Flag, but everything else I didn't realize. But the two-headed parrots that I mentioned in the Talisman, Flag has a two-headed parrot in his little dungeon, and perhaps he went into the territories and got those, or they're just also in All World. And it also describes this little passage of the townsfolk and the citizens of the kingdom were talking the night that the king died and was murdered. There was a lot of unrest and uncertainty in the kingdom, and everyone said this night Rhea of the Coos is flying around, and Rhea of the Coos is a witch from Roland's time, and I just picked up and then I was like, wow, it's really cool. It doesn't mean anything to you, but really thought it was cool, and I love picking up on those things. But yeah, I really thought it was really unique, very well done, and really uniquely written. And there was also a lot of illustrations, which was cool. Not a lot of his books have illustrations, but it does take place in Roland's world, all world. It takes place in one of the baronies of Midworld. Um,
Wow, sounds a lot like Middle Earth.
yeah, all things do serve the good.
World, Earth, sort of the same word,
Middle
really.
Earth, yeah, Midworld, Middle Earth. Definitely was based on Lord of the Rings.
This book came out right after the Talisman in release order.
Yeah, I'm reading chronologically. Apparently, they released this one in 1984 in a hardcover, and then re-released it for. They did like a limited printing, a couple of thousand or so copies of hardcover, and then re-released it in 1987 in a paperback form. That's the version I have.
Wait, when did it come out?
1984 on hardcover.
I see.
For mass market, it came out in 1987.
I see. Because I was gonna say usually they delay when the paperback comes out versus the hardcover, but usually not by 3 years. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I really loved it.
You know what I love doing?
What?
Go, going to the bathroom.
Okay.
Just listen to these brief words from our sponsors.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by Bush Light. This is very cheap. I looked up why it's cheap, and according to Google, it said it's not actually cheap, and it's almost the same price as Budweiser. But I don't think that's true. It's owned by Anheuser-Busch, which is where the Bush comes from. Giant alcohol conglomerate, which also owns Budweiser. If you're an H3 fan or a Kid Rock fan, you might know Kid Rock saying, "Grandpa's feeling a little frisky today," and then he takes I'm not a gun guy, but I think it's an automatic machine gun or something, and he just rapid fires into like a bunch of cases of Bud Light and just blows them up with his machine gun and says, "Fuck, fuck Budweiser, fuck Anheuser-Busch." He said that because he's transphobic, and he didn't like that Bud Light had one can for this trans person. I think Dylan Mulvaney, isn't that their name? Dylan Mulvaney, I think that's her name. Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney. Anyway, it's just some random trans person, and they gave her like this can with her face on it. It wasn't even massively produced in stores. It was just like a little promotion. They probably did it for a lot of different celebrities. She just happened to be trans, and the right took that as that means that Bud Light is woke now, and we must protest. But obviously, they're all hypocrites and fucking morons. And Kid Rock was seen drinking a Bud Light later at a concert, so he's a complete hypocrite, and was only doing that to virtue signal to his fellow Republicans. So that is the story of that.
Very good story, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, you know what? I didn't even talk about Rage, which I should have mentioned first, because I read that before The Eyes of the Dragon. And it also came out before The Eyes of the Dragon. Let me just briefly talk about Rage. This was my birthday gift from my parents. I was very, very excited to get it. The rarest Stephen King book out there. I got it in the Bachman Books 4-pack book. The original 4 Richard Bachman novels, written under his pseudonym, published in one book. The original Rage paperback goes for like thousands of dollars now. That is The White Whale. The original 4 Bachman books in their original signet, Richard Bachman, No King Association. That's my true White Whale. Especially that Long Walk cover. Love the Long Walk cover, the original one. And the Rage one, and the Roadwork one, and the Running Man one. But the Long Walk is the best. This one is was taken out of print by Stephen King himself after just way too many real life instances of school related gun violence occurred, and all of the perpetrators had copies of that book. There's like
Wow.
a list. There's a list of maybe 10 instances.
10, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Some of the authorities found it either in like their locker or their rooms, and a lot of the times they were very well read. It's very crazy. But Rage is essentially, without telling the whole plot, I thought it was just going to be, I thought it would be like slowly builds up and like his hatred builds throughout the book, and then at the end he murders his classmates or whatever. Like just real life school shooting, what happens. But in this one, it was like a hostage situation. And like in the first couple of chapters, he shoots his algebra teacher in the head, immediately kills her, and then the rest of the book takes place in that algebra classroom with her corpse just lying on the floor, and he just like, and there's like a moment it describes like, in that moment, all the students could have either, if one person would have screamed, that would have been it for me. They would have taken me down and whatever, blah blah blah. I would have been taken to jail immediately. Only one person like screamed, and no one else reacted, and they were all kind of in like shock. And like the rest of the book, they all just are like not acting as if their teacher just got murdered in front of them. And it becomes a hostage situation. The cops slowly build up outside, and inside in the classroom, it is basically the Breakfast Club. And him and his 20 or so classmates just start to share like their traumas. And like this one kid talks about how his mom just is complete cheapskate and doesn't care about him. And like she has the money, but she basically buys him like the cheapest pencils possible. Buys him, doesn't buy him new clothes at all. Like hasn't bought him new clothes in forever. Like doesn't, just basically gives him his most basic needs and nothing else. And those needs at that are the absolute dirt cheap version possible, while she goes out and buys her own stuff. And then other people talk about how they feel insecure, or one girl's fat. There's like a scene where the pretty girl and the fat girl like start fighting each other, and he hosts like a fight club. A lot of it, some of it was kind of too edgy and just kind of ridiculous in my opinion, especially that stuff, like the girls fighting each other. Like the fat girl would say, "You're a fucking slut," and then the pretty girl would say, "You're a fucking fat bitch," and they would start just like scratching at each other, and the main character Charlie was like, "Yeah, yeah," but yeah, yeah. Then eventually a hostage situation comes to an end. Whether all the students die or none of them die, or the guy dies, I'll leave that for you to find out. But it's all written from his perspective in like a journal entry type of thing. And slowly throughout
So
the
I
book,
guess he wouldn't have died if it's written from a journal entry.
well, you never know. Sometimes with Stephen King, it's just like that. Sometimes. Well, maybe he didn't.
Sometimes. Seems like he did die then, if you're disputing what I just said.
Well, maybe I'm just doing that to trick you. Maybe you'll just have to read Rage. Yeah, not my favorite Stephen King. Probably one of my least favorites out of the ones I've read. It's just a little ridiculous. Wasn't any tower connections at all.
Do you think that the beam was coming through the main character and forcing him to shoot everyone? Is that what happened?
No, the beam is a positive force back.
Oh, I forgot what the beam was.
The beams support the Dark Tower. Obviously.
Like Friends, like they give it moral support?
No, it's like energy beams of like sheer force and energy. There's really 12 beams, and each beam, there's 12 guardians, and each guardian is an animal. It's like a bat, a rat, lion, snake, blah, 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 blah. 12 animals, and each one has a beam. There's opposite beams. But anyway, no, the beam was not influencing, and the beams are a good force. Yeah, probably, maybe second least favorite. I didn't really care for the Running Man too much. Obviously, it's one of the greatest books ever written, but it's just in Stephen King tier. It's lower. Um, but actually, it's not the best. Some of the stuff, nah, like in the Boogeyman, the guy just says the N word a bunch of times with the hard R's. So why are you doing that? But it's like the character's a bad person, I guess. But it never really implied that he was a bad person. Besides any of that, some of his characters are just say the N word. That's just kind of how it is sometimes. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, that's Rage. Taken out of print. There were similar hostage situations where someone would kill their teacher. And a couple of them, I think that the student tackled the shooter and took him down. But all
Hmm.
of them, they had rage in their possession. It's very weird.
Wow. I bet Stephen King was pretty shuck up about that.
Yeah, he said, "All right, let's just call it at this point."
One or two school shootings based because of his book, that's fine. But after 10,
Yeah,
time to call it a wrap.
it's like 8 or something. Yeah. Um. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, but it was literally like the Breakfast Club, but in just a very dark, twisted way. He was talking about
Interesting.
how we all eat shit and just take it, but we're not gonna take it anymore. And Charlie described it as getting it on. He said, "We're not quite done yet. We're still getting it on."
Mm.
Yeah. Um. Let's see
I think
here.
this is gonna. I'm so close. I got to share my screen with you, Kevin.
Okay.
Oh, did it
Night
just
and
go?
day. No, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, okay. Share your screen.
Let's
Oh,
see.
there we go.
Watch stream. Okay. Get this
See,
loaded. Okay, I see it. Got 1024.
as you can see, I have 1024. I have two 128s here, 256 and a 512. So I have all the requisite pieces to get into a 2048. But as you can see, they're all split. It's very hard for me to get. I mean, this I can combine. Actually, I could do this right now. This, hold on. This I can combine here. But how do I get the 256 to that 256? It's like I'm so close. I can almost taste it.
I don't
But
know.
yeah,
Have you gotten a 2848 before?
I have one time. Yeah,
Only one time. Wow. The stream has ended. Cricket noise. Wow. Well, we're rooting for you.
thanks. Uh, any other books that you read?
Yeah, I got two more. I can. Don't really care to talk about the Walking Dead comics. Just feels kind of silly to keep talking about it. But essentially, at the end, Rick tricked Negan and he said, "Think about it. We can all work together and we don't have to fight. The only thing holding us back from progress is literally just you. We've conquered the zombies. We know how to take care of them. We're wasting our energy fighting each other, and it's stupid." And Negan actually goes, "Wow, holy shit, you're right." And he like has a moment to contemplate, and he starts to like kind of comprehend what he's been doing and how wrong it is, and then it says, "Well, I'm glad you see things my way," and he slits his throat. And
I feel like that already happened. Maybe that happened during
yeah,
the show.
yeah,
When,
that happened. It did happen in the show. Yeah, in the show,
yeah.
he tried to manipulate Negan by talking about Carl because Carl dies in the show, but obviously in the comics he doesn't and actually outlives Rick. Um, yeah, but same thing essentially. And he says, "Don't kill him! Don't kill him!" But yet Negan actually fights back in the comic and he breaks Rick's leg, and then Rick says, don't help me! Don't even touch my leg before you save Negan's life. We need him to live." And then he does. Rick's leg gets healed. He puts in a cast, and Negan wakes up and he says, "What are you gonna do to me?" He says, "I'm gonna keep you in jail, and you're gonna watch how wrong you were." And then the last line is, "You're fucked." And it ended there. I haven't read more. And then from then
I'm
on,
fucked.
there's a huge time skip of like 5 years, I think, maybe just a couple years. And I know at that point they start establishing trade routes with guards along the route, and Seems like progress is happening. And you know the next villains are the Whisperers. They cut zombie
Wow.
faces. They cut zombie faces off of the zombies and put them over their faces and walk with them so they can blend in. They take the guts trick to a whole nother level. Bunch of freaks.
I'm gonna die, Kevin. I have no remaining moves. No matter what I do, I'm gonna die.
Oh,
Game over. All right.
damn, bro.
I can get one more attempt in here. Uh, well, sounds like The Walking Dead is awesome and cool.
Mm-hmm. And then, would you like to talk about one of your movies? I've got one more
I
movie left. Got one movie, one show, one book. That's what I got left.
well on the 28th I watched or no, I watched The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
I think you already
Uh,
mentioned that.
did I talk about it though? Thought I almost talked about it and then I
Maybe
talked
not.
about
Yeah.
something else instead.
Yeah, you can talk about Return. Oh, and actually, I have two movies, not one. Go ahead.
Okay. The Return of the King, I think probably the best movie. Has an epic battle at the end where the orcs are just they're just trying to get into this castle. There's this giant door they're trying to get through, and they bring out these giant creatures that are like ramming themselves into the door, shooting arrows, and there's all sorts of different battles. It's just a really cool medieval battle, you know. Um, and that's like the end of the movie. But before that, Gollum and Frodo and Sam together, and Gollum is very evil the whole time, and he's trying to play tricks on them, and he frames Sam by crumbling some of the bread they have, and so Frodo thinks that Sam ate the last of their bread, but really Gollum just wasted it. And and oh yeah, I think in my opinion the best part of the movie is just Frodo, Sam, and Gollum together. Um,
Yeah, that's like pretty much the whole movie, right?
well,
Besides the war, I don't know.
they cut between them, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas and Gandalf, and what he's doing. So it's like three different stories. And then there's also Merry and Pippin. They
And
also
the
have their own.
Ents.
And the Ents?
Yeah, the giant tree people.
Oh yeah, that was
The
in the second movie,
Ents.
I
Oh,
think.
that was that second. Okay. I
Um,
thought, didn't they come in at the end of the battle? The Ents.
I don't remember. I maybe, but I don't remember that
Oh,
happening. Um,
Treebeard. He's cool. I had to look up the
but
name
yeah,
of the guys.
the battle at the end is so
Ents.
cool because Gandalf is there and he's like leading them and he's like, "Do not surrender, do not back down, fight for your life." And it's so epic and Gandalf, this old man is fighting like brilliantly with his sword and staff in hand and um I don't know. I also think that the magic in Lord of the Rings is I think it's almost cooler. I think it is cooler than like the magic in Harry Potter because in Harry Potter it's sort of like it's almost like just guns, like the wands are guns and you just shoot each other with spells.
Uh-huh.
Whereas with in Lord of the Rings, it's all very mythical and very like these forces like in this I don't know, it's very like spiritual almost. And like Gandalf isn't like using his magic all the time. Like he only does magic a couple times throughout the movie. But it's cool because he like communicates with this little bug and that gets the eagles for him. He's just like very in tune with the world and everything. Um, but yeah, while the battle is happening, Frodo and Sam and Gollum are trying to throw the ring into Mount Doom, like at the same time. So they're having concurrently, um, and then as soon as they throw the ring falls into Mount Doom, I think I think everyone just like dies. I think all the orcs just die or something like that. Like as soon as the ring goes in, it's like, oh, the battle has been won. Middle Earth has been saved, and yeah, I just think it's just a really cool movie. You know, the main characters just all have their own cool special thing. Gandalf is awesome. Frodo is just he's just very brave. He's just a small little hobbit, but he's very brave. And Sam is just the best friend you could ever ask for. He's just very kind. And um, one thing I thought was weird is at the end, Frodo goes off into like the elf region, like this otherworldly area that I didn't really understand. I think it's almost like elf heaven or something, because all the elves are like migrating away from Middle Earth and leaving, and Frodo decides to go with them along with Gandalf. I didn't really understand that because Frodo was like, "There's nothing left for me in this world," but I thought like, well, I don't know, why couldn't you like meet a nice Hobbit lady and just settle down in the Shire? Like, I don't understand what necessarily. Maybe he just had like PTSD or something. But
Hmm.
Sam, Sam gets a wife and kids at the end of the movie, but Frodo for some reason goes off with the elves.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I really
yeah,
want to read
just
those books.
just an epic movie. I tried reading the books when I was in like seventh grade, and it's really dense.
The
I think
books,
a lot of it there's a lot more like description, like intense
yeah.
description,
From what I understand,
and
the jokes are just J.R.R. Tolkien describes a forest for 2 pages. From what I understand,
mhm,
that's the way it goes.
yeah,
What does he? What does Sam say? It's really, really emotional. He said something like, "I'll carry you there, Frodo. If you can't walk, I'll carry you." Something like that.
he does. Yes, he carries Frodo. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I watched. Those are the couple clips I watched. I watched Gollum, Smeagol turning into Gollum. And great, really great sound effects like that. He puts the ring on for the first time. That whole scene, man,
Hmm.
very creepy. Uh, yeah, yeah, I like when he bites off Frodo's finger. That final fight, Frodo's fully
Hmm.
possessed. And the only way that the ring could have been destroyed is by just accident.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, the opening I love how it opens with Smeagol. Um and I also love how Frodo is like nice tries to be nice to Gollum, or he tries to call him Smeagol instead of Gollum. He like tries to befriend him, and Sam just kind of doesn't trust him. It almost seems like they have like this shared understanding of like the ring in some way, like they have this bond or something. Um yeah, but Gollum is a great character. Yeah, good. Yeah, I want to read the books as well. I also kind of just want to rewatch the movies now that I'm familiar with like the layout of them, but
Yeah, and
probably
you
not
got
anytime soon. They're so
you got
long.
bonus content. You have three more hours than I've seen in the movies. Those
Yeah, I wonder
extended things
what
are crazy.
wonder it never really I could never really tell what was extended and what was in the original, what was added. It just felt very natural, like how it was supposed to be. I think is what it was.
It's cool. Can you say can you say they cast us away like Gollum? That cursed us.
Uh, mm, they
Can you can you do the scene where he talks to himself for us?
I don't really haven't really ever practiced a Gollum impression. My precious. No, I can't really do it. It's very bad.
That was not
My
good.
precious.
Did you ever see the
They
Britain's
tricksters me.
Did you ever see the Britain's Got Talent thing? It's like the most pathetic thing ever, where the guy's one talent was doing a Gollum impression.
No, I haven't.
He just gets there and crouches on the balls of his feet and just acts like Gollum. It's a really good impression, but that's his whole talent. They're like, "Do you have any other talent? Do you have any other impressions?" He's like, "Not really." Something like that. I don't remember. I just remember he just was on stage, posed like Gollum, and that was the whole talent.
How
It's
funny.
funny. They cast us. I feel like I could do a pretty good Gollum impression. They cast us away. That was very good. Anyways, god damn. Now I have to talk about Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. Okay. This basically took the backstory of the Timmy Baterman story, in which is it just a plot device, basically in the book to tell Lewis that you should not bury your your kid. He asks him, has anyone ever buried a person in the pet cemetery? And initially he goes, God, no, Jesus. Why would you even think something like that? But then later on he reveals the story. And in the book, he was like already a man and had a wife and everything. And one of his friends, I think George Baderman, his son Timmy died in the war, and he came back in a box basically, and he just couldn't handle it. So he buried him in the cemetery, in the Micmac ground, and he came back, and yeah, he's still he's just a kid coming back, like probably 17 or 18. And there's a scene. Me and Dad were. Dad found it very hilarious. He was recounting it with me, and it is. I didn't initially think of it as funny when I read it, but the absurdity of it is very funny. Just yeah, he comes back and he's like, your wife. He's like, your wife fucks other dudes. She came when he fucked her. What do you think about that, huh? What do you think about that? And the dad was like, pipe down now, hush now. That was like the main scene. It was just one little backstory scene, but they basically fleshed that out and changed it so that Judd was friends with Timmy Baderman, and it was about Judd and Norma right after graduating from high school. They were like going to leave on a road trip for college, but then they accidentally hit a dog, and then eventually got pulled into the pet cemetery, and Timmy Baderman was evil. I think he died at the end, and then there was a shot of Judd and Timmy and his other friend, who was an original character for the film, and they were all having their arms around each other. It was like, wow, they were just friends. They were just kids. So sad. Yeah, it wasn't very good. It was all right, but it wasn't very good. I give it a 2 out of 5 stars. Don't really have much to say about it. I thought it was sad when the side guy's sister died. You can see in the banner for the film here. His sister died eventually, and she came back as a pet cemetery zombie, and she was mean to him. It was very sad. And that was Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Okay. I have to talk about Fear the Walking Dead because I have to tell you about Jimbo's Beer Bows. Okay? Morgan met a guy named Jim who really loved beer. And The Walking Dead, for all its silliness, and most of that comes from the logic and rules of how the zombies work, it's just very loose. Essentially, the story is pretty good, and the characters are very well written for the most part, and very well acted. And there's a lot of just actually good moments. But Fear the Walking Dead, this character comes in and he has this monologue about how beer is so good, and basically his whole character is that he knows the recipe for beer, and he used to brew back before the apocalypse, and he's like, we need beer. It's nutritious. It has the perfect amount of nutrients. It gives a nice, pleasant buzz that's much needed in this time. And it's just a character who likes beer, and he goes into a monologue about beer. And then eventually he dies, and was very angry that he was dying. But then he eventually gave the recipe to the rest of the characters at the end, and then sacrificed himself to save them. And then at the end they said, what should we name it? And then they said, Jimbo's Beer Bows. And that was the name.
Jimbo's Beer Bows?
Yeah. He said,
what should they name the recipe for the name of the beer?
Yeah, what should we name the official beer? He said, we have to name it after Jim. We have to give it a good name. And they said, like, Jim's Brew was the first suggestion. He said, that's too generic. We got to do something really special. And he said, how about Jimbo's Beer Bows? They kind of suggested as a silly. He said, that's funny. He would hate that. They call it Jimbo's Beer Bows. So that's Jimbo's Beer Bows. The other thing I have to tell you about is that there's a character named Martha who is crazy, and her whole thing was that she lost her husband on like the first days of the apocalypse because she got in a crash. It was her fault, and she kept trying to flag people down to help her. No one would stop, And so she eventually went crazy. She was like, "Helping is bad. If you ask for help, you're weak. It can't be good. That's why my husband died. Helping is bad. I have to be strong." And so she begins to think that the way to be strong is to kill guys and have them come back as zombies. And once they're zombies, they're strong because they can just eat people. Um, so that's what she does, and then she becomes the villain of the last like 4 episodes or so. And this is when the really writing is really bad. Is she like poisons these guys' water, the main character's water, with she puts antifreeze in it, and I'm not sure what antifreeze tastes like or what, but there was like I feel like it would be you'd be able to taste it at least if there was a little bit. Um, but basically,
Probably.
they find this like gas station which the bad guy was also holed up in. It's all. Don't want to go into the larger stuff about the truck stops and everything, but they knew where this gas station was, and it was tied into her and Jimbo's beer bows. And she like poisoned all the water with antifreeze, even though she didn't even know they were coming. She did that like a while ago, and they were all drinking the water. And they were all the whole group except for Morgan was there because Morgan was out trying to help her become sane again because he used to be crazy too. And then they eventually start becoming sick, and he's like, "Oh no!" And he's trying to communicate with them on the radio, and like, "Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay?" And she says, "They're screwed. They're fucked. I poisoned them with antifreeze. There's nothing you can do." And he goes, "Guys, it's antifreeze. Did you hear that? It's antifreeze. What's the antidote?" But they don't hear him because they have a CB at their place, but he's on a little walkie radio, and the signal is not good on his end. They can't hear anything he's saying until eventually he gets close enough, and he's like, and this is like they're like, he says, one of the main characters is a nurse, and she realizes like if we have to get the antidote before the antifreeze fully like metabolizes into our bloodstream or whatever. That's when we're really fucked. But it's been like hours, and they're already like drenched in sweat. They look really bad. They're very pale, drenched in sweat, and says. Eventually, he finds out. He's like, "Guys, it's antifreeze," and she says, "Oh, the antidote for that is ethanol." And then they go, "Oh, we've got a bunch of ethanol in the tanker truck right outside," and they chop it up. I actually forgot why, but then they actually weren't able to drink it because there was too many zombies or something. So then they wasted the ethanol, and they're like, we're gonna die now. And they all go back inside and continue dying. And Morgan says on the radio, he says, "Ethanol is just another word for alcohol, right?" And he says, "Yeah." And he comes back eventually. The bad guy is dead. She comes back as a zombie, and he kills her. And he comes back, and he really doesn't want to lose him, because if he loses his friends this time again, he's gonna lose his mind again and just go crazy into killing mode, which is where he used to be before he met his friend Eastman, which was a great episode in Walking Dead. And he saves him. He comes back and he says, "I got Jimbo's beer bows," and they all drink. Somehow, just one beer each saves them from antifreeze poisoning, and that is the nice story. And they all are better, really quickly, and then they all keep driving on. And that was how the season ended. And they kept teasing Alexandria, that they were going to go back to Alexandria where Rick lives, but they never did. And they mentioned other characters like, "Is this the king you were talking about?" And I said, "I know what they're referencing." But anyways, that is the very inferior Fear the Walking Dead. Now I'm done with season 4. And I'm going to continue with season 9 of The Walking Dead. And I'm excited for the first episode in which Gregory gets hanged. Because Gregory is a piece of shit. Can't wait to see him die by Maggie's hands.
Nice.
Yep.
Sounds like
And that's Jimbo's beer
sounds
bows.
pretty silly.
Yeah.
Jimbo's beer bows. When you said ethanol, I was like, why don't they just drink Jimbo's beer bows?
Yeah. Brought it back. Yeah, it was awesome. It was fucking awesome, dude. I'm telling you. Shit was fucking sick, dude. Okay. I've got one movie and one book. You've got 2 movies. And that's it, right? So let's alternate, hey? Would you like to
Sure.
alternate?
Yeah, so I would talk about Tetris.
Yeah, let's talk about Tetris. You say, "We're going to die. What's the point of watching Tetris act?" What did you mean by that?
I don't know. I just felt like it didn't like the movie was like it was okay, but like I just didn't like. I like felt like my life's call. I felt in that moment like my life's calling was definitely not to watch the movie Tetris. Like, that was not the path I need to be on right now. Um, like like it doesn't matter. Like the movie doesn't matter. Like it has no real weight to it. It's just like sort of a funny, silly, it's not even silly or funny. It's like just kind of like a kind of loose, very laid back telling of the story of how the rights for Tetris were purchased. And I mean, it's sort of interesting. Like Taron Egerton is a video game. Uh, he owns like a video game software company, and he goes to this convention, and he's trying to sell his dumb bad video game, and then his he goes out into the convention floor. Actually, what was cool is that he was at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which I didn't realize existed all the way back then, but apparently it's been around since 1969 or something. Um, but he goes and sees Tetris for the first time, and he's like, "Oh man, this game is so fun!" And then so basically he asks, "Who owns the rights to this?" Because it hadn't really caught on yet. Um, it's like a convention of new technologies. So it's like, who owns the rights? And then the guy was like, oh, we own the rights everywhere. Um, and then he was like, oh, what about Japan? And they're like, oh, we could sell you Japan rights. I don't know. It's kind of complicated. The original inventor of the game is Russian, and so the game is technically owned by the communist Russians, not owned by the guy who invented it. It's owned like by the government of Russia. And so apparently when he was sold the rights to the Japan release, uh, it wasn't they didn't even really technically have it because the Russians hadn't actually sold it. And so he has to go to Russia, convince this guy, all sorts of stuff, just like political dealings. And I don't know. Taron Egerton's character is just sort of an aloof sort of a guy. He's kind of presented as sort of dumb, but very sort of very has a lot of perseverance, and he just really wants to get this game because he bet his whole life on it. Um, I don't know. And the uh, one part that I resonated with was when he was talking. He was originally presenting the game the to a guy at a bank who was supposed to lend him money to buy the rights to it. He was like, "This game is awesome. You don't understand. I played the game for 5 minutes and I saw blocks falling in my sleep." And I related to that because I had a couple day phase last year where I was playing Tetris a lot. And it's crazy that happens. Like you play Tetris long enough, and when you close your eyes to go to bed, you literally just see like the blocks falling. It's
Hmm.
really interesting.
Yeah, I could talk about that with not watching blocks in my head, but I've just been pretty much just playing Mario nonstop. I haven't watched any movies or I haven't read for the last week and a half. Mainly because my next book is Skeleton Crew, and that's a story collection, and the first story is like 100 pages long, so I just haven't started it. Once you're in it, it's like I want to keep finding out what's happening, but I don't even know the story, so it's like I don't exactly want to start it right now. And I really want playing the Mario's. But anyway, I've been playing just nonstop Mario, and like I play it at work. I bring my Ben's Switch, and like I leave the shack to go pee, and like I have this moment in my head where I'm going, I'm walking too slow. I should long jump. And like I think I can actually long jump for like half a second, and I like feel it, and like like I could feel like my phantom body jerk, or I could just like, or I could pretend to do a back jump, like the running flat flap flip jump, which is the best part of all three 3D games. And also, I was just playing a bunch of Mario Kart, and when I was like walking along a curve, I was like leaning the other way to drift while I was
Mm,
walking. It's weird. Or like,
pretty
or
funny.
like sometimes like same thing. Like if I'm if I'm reading like a bunch of Stephen King like nonstop too, I like when I read out loud to myself, I have like a certain inflection and narration tone I've like developed, and I like find myself just thinking like nothing but like speech patterns and just thinking that in my head. Or like if I just
Mm.
watch a bunch of H3, I just like hear Ethan's inflection, just saying nothing in particular. It's like nonsense speech, but like the inflection is strange.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's just a thing. I mean, I experienced that a lot of the times. If I like spend a whole day with someone, um, and I talk to them a lot, I'll hear their voice in my head as I'm drifting to sleep, saying nothing in particular, just like random like syllables or phrases, and just
Mm,
just like the cadence or the tone of it.
yeah,
Interesting how the brain works.
it's weird. Yeah, especially like I've had multiple moments where I'm like, God, I got a long jump right now. I'm walking way too slow. Man, actually, they took out the fucking long jump in Super Mario Sunshine. Can you believe that? They took out the long jump and the backward somersault standing, the crouching backflip, which sometimes I'm just
Well,
walking way too slow in Sunshine. But they give you the flood thing, and I know later on they give you like a boost, so it balances out. And at least they didn't take the running backflip, which is my favorite part of all three games. I just fucking love that shit. I do it at every single turn I can do, even every single step.
wow.
I'm running. I perfectly run back for a split second, and turn back, flip, jump over the guard little area of the right where you go from the lower part to the upper dome with the terrace, right where the green booster star and the sleeping toad is. Do that every time. You perfectly time your long jump so you can just see Yahoo! 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 Throughout the entire
Hmm.
observatory. Fucking love that shit. That's why Mario's so fun. He's such a talented acrobat. I can't believe how skilled he is.
Yeah, Mario is great because it's really just this vessel that you are inhabit, and you just get to do all these fun,
You could
cool
do
things
sick
all the time.
fucking flips and tricks the whole time. That's why it's so awesome.
When you were talking about how you thought you could long jump, I just had this funny visual of you at the construction site and like you getting really excited about it and like doing like a Yahoo up and like just walking around and then like doing a super wide thing of you in the far distance and the construction workers just looking at you really confused.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about the stark juxtaposition of just every single person there is working hard. I'm just in my guard shack. And that's why I sometimes feel like I am. Uh, mm, it's like my job doesn't have a purpose. And I feel
Mhm.
a little unfulfilled in that way, but on the other hand, it's like it's pretty sweet. I can just kind of do whatever I want. There's also like a sense of unfulfilled, but
Yeah, the problem is that the more you do things that are like feel good, like are pleasurable, the farther away I feel you stray from actual fulfillment. I
mm-hmm.
feel like I feel like they're like inverses of each other. The harder you work, the more actually genuinely fulfilled you will feel in your soul, and you'll actually like have a like actually like enjoy life.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have less time to enjoy hedonistic things. But that's why I saw this chart of hedonism and hedonic and eudaimonic pleasure. Have I already talked to you about this?
I think you mentioned it.
Well, anyways, it was like a chart of like a graph where you have like four boxes and like all it's like all hedonic, all actually let me look it up. Let me try to find it. It was a good explanation of how to be happy.
Maybe I just saw the same chart on r/cool guides one time. Not sure.
Oh, here it is. Okay. Let me see. God, it's on mapalicious.com. Link it, new
Mapalicious.
tab. Open link in new open open image in new tab. There we go.
Ah, man.
Let's see. If you do neither eudaimonic or hedonic pleasure, you have the void life. If you do only hedonic things, you have the sweet life. If you only do eudaimonic things, you have the dry life. But if you get a good balance of both, you can have the fulfilled life.
Hmm. Interesting, The Sweet Life. That's a good song by Frank Ocean. It says, you've had a
Yeah, and a good
landscaper and a housekeeper since you were born. The sunshine always kept you warm. What is it?
also a good
What's the
Disney
song?
Channel show.
Yeah, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Frank Ocean.
Ah,
Let's see.
what's next, Kevin?
So why see the world when you got the beach? Yeah. Best song wasn't the single, but you couldn't turn your radio down. Catching that breeze till you're dead in the grave. Whatever feels good, whatever takes you mountain high. Keeping it surreal. Not sugar free, my TV ain't HD, that's too real. Grapevines, mango, peaches, and lime, a sweet life. So why see the world when you got the beach? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He's spitting. I understand it now. It makes sense. The sweet life, it's an actual thing. Oh, let's see. Sorry for my my people who are watching this. Let me just close that. Now you can actually see us again. Alrighty. I'll talk about, before my last movie, I'll talk about Thinner, which is a Richard Bachman book. This was actually the book that outed Stephen King as Richard Bachman. He wrote the first four successfully. Nobody knew, really. I mean, maybe some people suspected based on the writing style, but it wasn't known or confirmed or anything. Let's see. But he wrote this book, Thinner, and this was the first one published as a hardcover. So this was like Richard Bachman's first major release, I guess, in hardcover, because I know that's more expensive to produce. But a bookstore employee found like the copyright holding under Stephen King's name for this book somehow, and that outed him, and then he found out. And Stephen King talked about one of the reasons, main reason he wrote some books as Bachman was that he was simply had too many stories to tell, and his publishers initially, when he didn't have the clout that he does today, they didn't want to oversaturate the market with his stuff, and so he said, well, what if I publish under a different name? I don't care, I just want to get my stories out there. So they did that for his first four books, and the fifth one. But another reason, he said, I'm curious if people are buying my books because they like them or just because it has the Stephen King name on the cover. And when Thinner was published under Richard Bachman's name, it sold a humble, decent amount of copies, and when it was published under Stephen King's name, it became a bestseller. So that was the answer that he needed. But, I mean, it's like, I read Stephen King because I really like his writing, and his name is on the cover. I mean,
And it's
it's
also
just that I
like
like him. It's not,
he became. There was a point where he wasn't famous. He
yeah,
became. There was some original initial point
yeah.
of him
His,
actually
his writing
gaining
spoke for
traction.
itself at one point. Yeah, but this one is the last official Bachman book. He published, I think, 3 more under the name, maybe only 2 more. I'm not sure. But those were later, after he was already outed, and those were like this. I dug up these ones from Richard Bachman, and then Richard Bachman also became a fictional character along with his wife in the Dark Tower series, but that's a whole nother bag of worms. Claudia Inez Bachman, which has 19 letters, of course. If you know, you know. Who also wrote? Never. I'm not gonna go to too much too much lore. But Thinner is basically about this man named Billy Halleck, who is overweight, pretty much obese. He's a lawyer. He's about I think he's 250 pounds, Um, and he has a pretty standard life. He's reasonably wealthy. He lives in suburbia. A lot of it talks about how like just suburban and just like just Pleasantville this place he lives in is. He has a doctor that like snorts coke while he's there and offers him a bump. Um, but basically, the inciting incident is he is driving down the road, and all of a sudden, this has never happened before. Him and his wife are sexually healthy. They have a good, loving relationship, but they don't do stuff like this. This being that she starts to give him a hand job in the car, and they've never done anything crazy like that. Usually, it's just in the bedroom. They never do stuff like that, and so gets caught off guard and obviously immediately turned on. Was very excited, and he starts to like he's focus goes to his dick, and he's not focusing on the road, and he hits this. And apparently this is a slur, but this is they keep saying gypsy. He hits a gypsy woman, and she's like 80 or maybe 60 or something. She's old already, and her father, the ancient gypsy of the leaders of the gypsies, this local group of gypsies that is touring his, well, not touring, but just stopping through his city. He curses him after the main character gets off scot-free, because he's a lawyer, he has connections. The judge that held his case basically dismissed him and got him off consequence-free. So the gypsy old man, the father of the woman he killed, took it into his own hands to get revenge, and he brushes after the main character Billy steps out of the courtroom. The old man brushes past his cheek and says, "Thinner." And from then on, he loses about 100. He goes from 250 to like almost 100 pounds within 2.5 months or so. And it just describes how he's slowly becoming more and more gaunt. And like there's this first time where the or not the concierge, but the room service boy or whatever you call him has this brief moment where he glances at him and has like shock in his eyes, and then politely puts on his employee mask again and just is polite. But he senses it and he says, "Wow, this is going to start to happen a lot more. People are going to look at me like I'm a freak." So I like that. The main reason I was excited to read this book is just kind of see how he realistically describes the way that you would lose weight. But similar to Roadwork, he has a lot of the story is about this gangster friend of his, and in my opinion, Stephen King doesn't really write gangsters very well. Even the one in the Dark Tower was just not very scary. And a lot of it is about this gangster trying to help him out and get revenge towards the end. So I wasn't really crazy about that part. And also, I was trying to figure out how this gypsy had powers and how he would curse him and how it ties into the larger universe. And that is my burden of trying to figure out everything. But I was having a hard time kind of connecting with that part of the story, but it wasn't the worst. Obviously, it was one of the best books ever written since it's by Stephen King, but just on his tier list, it was lower. Wouldn't be my favorites. I think just a lot of the Richard Bachman's ones in general. I'm not sure. Richard Bachman's books have just a certain tone. They kind of are just a little grittier, and a couple of his books are more dystopian, but it kind of feels like all of them are in the kind of just same kind of pessimistic kind of world. And perhaps all of them take place in the same universe, but it's non-linear. Who knows? The Bachman books definitely have their own tone to them. And yeah, I completely forgot that there was I didn't forget that there was a movie, but I forgot that I should watch the movie. I watched the trailer there, and it looks dog shit. The tone looks very off. He's like, meet Billy Halleck. He's just a fat guy, and eventually he gets skinny. And he's like wearing this big, goofy, fat suit. And he's like, whoa, I'm a little fat guy. And I thought it looked pretty bad. And apparently it is pretty bad. So, not expecting much out of the movie. Next, I'm reading Skeleton Crew, which is pretty long, which is a short story collection. And then after that is It, which I'm very excited for. And I've been buying. I have the one I originally read of it right there, my big paperback, the tie-in novel for the for the movie that came out recently. Um, but I've been trying to buy the original Signet paperbacks because I love those. I actually have I have it right here in my eBay box.
Wow.
Can't wait to open it. Um, I've been buying them off eBay. They're pretty cool. I really like the original. I try to get the first Signet printings. Um, they're nice. I love the original kind of fonts instead of the newer. I don't like the sleek graphic design, and it's all computer generated kind of graphic design for these modern novels, especially the Pet Sematary one. It's just a cat photoshopped on there. The originals are just much better. Some of them are the same covers as the hard covers you're collecting and eventually giving to me, but a lot of them are different. Anyway, looking forward to reading more Stephen King. This was my week of binging Mario at work, so I'm gonna have to get back to reading because ultimately it's more fun. So that's Thinner.
Nice. Sounds like an interesting movie, actually. I mean, the premise is very interesting sounding.
Mm-hmm.
How does he get thinner? Does he just stop eating, or is he trying to eat as much as he can, but he just can't lose
He
weight?
already
He
eats
can't
like
gain
a
weight?
he already eats like a fat guy. He eats like a lot more. He like describes how he like eats. His wife makes him another English muffin slathered with butter, and he hardly notices that he's eating it. That's like right before the curse starts to take effect. But like he's slowly losing the weight, and he's eating normal amount, if not more than he usually does, and he's still losing it. And his wife starts to like be concerned for him. They start to send him to trials, and his wife is concerned that he's like has cancer or whatever, and she's like trying to rationalize it. And I think a lot of it is secretly that she knows that part of it's to blame, and deep down she knows that he is cursed, as crazy as that is, because all of King's characters mostly are normal people in normal world with crazy circumstances happening to them. And almost every book has a point where the character is starting to like fight against the rationality and like accept that this
Mm.
supernatural occurrences. And his wife, that's her main thing, and like he eventually has to leave because she puts out like a I don't know what you call it, but I'm not stable anymore, and I need the white men in the white coats to take me away to the funny form. She like files that with the judge and gets it approved, and so he has to leave, or else he's gonna get taken to the psych ward pretty much. Um,
Mhm.
so I like that how they rationalize it, make it kind of realistic how it would happen if it could happen.
Nice.
So yeah. Actually, why don't I talk about Mad Max really quick, and then you can talk about yours, since it's the recommendation, and that is our last movie.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I watched Mad Max because Red Letter Media watched the new one, Furiosa, and I'd like to watch the movies that come out or the reviews they watch with them. And it's probably a detriment, and I probably shouldn't do that because now I'm like months behind on their stuff, and I haven't caught up still. I'm just falling more behind. Um, and I really want to watch their Deadpool and Wolverine one that they just released. Very interesting. Um,
Mm.
but anyway, I watched Mad Max. It was very odd. I liked it a lot. Not a lot actually. I liked it, not a lot, but I had a I had a tough time like figuring out like what was going on and like what kind of world they were inhabiting. Because all I knew was Mad Max Fury Road, and from the imagery I know of that is like desolate landscapes, steampunk, like monster trucks, like kind of just punk stuff. But this was like normal world. Um, Seemed like it was kind of dystopian. Things were kind of crumbling, but it wasn't apocalyptic. I think in the second one, the apocalypse starts, I guess. But yeah, this one was kind of good. Very odd villains. You watched it too. I saw your review. They said weird editing, and there was weird editing. I can't even remember what exactly was weird, but there was a lot of parts I was like, strange editing. And villains were just very theatrical and just kind of corny. I thought.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and it's weird that Mel Gibson is pretending to be Australian. And I wrote weird happenings over in Australia. I guess don't have much to say about it. I'm very curious about the other films. I'm going to continue to watch these. Part of my Red Letter Media catch up. Now that I finished my Stephen King, I have to endlessly watch movies that are part of lists.
Mel Gibson is Australian. He's an
He is?
American-born Australian actor who moved to
What?
Australia when he was 12 years old.
That's crazy.
So his accent's probably English, but or American, but
Yeah,
by
he was
blood
doing
he's Australian.
a little bit of an accent. It wasn't very prominent. I thought he was just like doing a fake kind of bad accent, but if he is actually Australian, he probably just has kind of a very faint accent, I guess.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure, but I know he's not a very good person. Very weird, conservative religious takes, I think. But that's Mad Max. It's all directed by one guy, George Miller, and I guess he just really likes this world that he's created. Interesting. It's very interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Weird franchise, but curious to watch the other ones. And that's Mad Max. Give it
Yes,
a 7
well,
out of 10. Any thoughts on Mad
technically,
Max since you watched it too?
I really don't have any thoughts
Saw
on it.
your
I don't
review.
remember anything that happened
Okay.
in it, really.
All right.
Um, I today, against the spirit of the podcast, I watched the recommendation a little bit late. Um, but at least I watched it, right?
At least you watched it.
And it the Beauty and the Beast, the French version, I thought it was very charming and very I think I think I prefer the Disney animated one, just because I think that I feel like Belle as a character is more fleshed out. Like she like really likes reading, and that's kind of like how she falls in love with the Beast. Is like the Beast has this big library of books, and that's how they connect. But in this one, she's very one dimensional, and she's just kind of like, oh, she's just a sister who she's the sister who cleans because the other two are pretty apparently, which I didn't even understand because they they all looked pretty similarly attractive, I guess, or Belle probably looked more attractive than her. So I don't understand why that was set up like that. It was set up almost like Cinderella or something.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
Cinderella story. The stepsisters.
I'm not sure what the original book is like if those sisters are in it or what, or if they cut out part about her liking books or if that was added in the Disney movie or whatever. But I liked the I think I prefer the Disney movie, but I really did enjoy seeing all the practical effects. Just like you said in your review, Kevin. I
Yeah,
thought
don't remember
it was
much, but I remember that little candle face guy in the walls. I thought it was very cool.
yeah, and how
She steps into the
all the
castle.
candles were just held out by arms in the wall,
Yeah,
and there's a magic glove that she could teleport with, and a horse that would go wherever you wanted to. It would just know where you want to go. Um, so yeah, I think it was almost like almost very surreal and just this very interesting sort of magical world, and just the practical effects added this sort of it made it feel a certain magical way. And it is in French, which I think is where the Disney movie takes place. So it is more authentic in that way. Um, but yeah, it almost felt like, even though I think the Disney movie and the this one are about the same length, it felt like there was less happening in the French one. Maybe it was just because they were able to sort of establish the whole story at the beginning with the opening narration in the Disney movie, but it felt like there was a lot more going on in the Disney movie. But I enjoyed it, and I thought, oh, and also I thought, it was really well made. Like the cinematography, there was a shot I'm thinking of in particular where they have like the two sisters are being carried in these little like man-powered carriages, and there's a cool shot where it's from a certain perspective, and they have like all the men lining up to grab the carriages in a row, and you can kind of see them through the different windows, and then the final one comes and sort of covers the camera. Um, and yeah, the effects are very good. They do a lot of like reversing things, and you can tell very clearly that it's reversed. Like at the end, they fly away, and you can see as they're flying, it looks like how a skirt would look if you were falling down, but instead it's her flying up. But it's yeah, it's good. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
it.
thought so. Watched it on my old projector, in the old new Cavalier, but it was years ago. Remember
Mm,
at the beginning it said like, "Suspend your disbelief. This is a tale for children.
yeah,
May not
it
be the
did
most
say that.
realistic or something like that, but we ask you to have the mind of a child for this experience, right?"
Yeah, seemed a little like insecure almost for them to put that at the beginning.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah,
Well, those
that's
are
it.
all the movies I watched.
Those are all the movies I watched. You have to watch the special version with the opera. I think my Criterion has like two separate audio tracks. I think they might. I
Hmm,
think they have an English dub and like an operatic version.
interesting.
Don't really care about the dub, but I'm interested in the opera. I would never watch a film dubbed out of its original language.
Subs, not dubs.
Subs, not dubs. Siempre.
Uh,
Wow.
well, are we done discussing things now?
Yeah, that's all I had to say about my stuff. Watched The Bear
Okay,
today. I watched The Bear episode 5, but don't have much to say until I'm done with the season, really.
right. Um, well, in that case, I will uh, give you a recommendation of Before Sunrise, the Richard Linklater movie.
All right.
Uh,
Add it to my watch list here. Oh, it's already on my watch list.
and let me prepare for the song of the month here.
Oh, really?
I only practiced it one time
Really?
before this podcast started, so hopefully it'll be good. But anytime I listen back to the podcast, I just think, oh, it's so horrible that I can't actually hear anything I'm playing because of the way that Discord cuts off my audio for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe if you record just this section from your own end, you can send it to me or something. Because there's no way I can do the full audio from your end, but maybe not for this time, but we can figure it out next time or something. Or something.
Okay, I'm gonna start recording then. Now I'm recording my own audio. Okay. I gotta figure out what key I'm just gonna be singing in. I don't want to.
Can you introduce the song first?
Yes, this is "Why Do Fools Fall in Love" by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Why do fools fall in love? Why do birds sing? Why do birds sing so gay? No lovers awake to break. Ah, I'm messing it up. Can I try it again? Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah.
because the chords change so many times. Why do birds sing so gay, and lovers await the break of day? Why do they fall in love? Why does the rain fall from up above? Why do fools fall in love? Why do they fall in love? Why does my heart skip a crazy beat? For I know it will reach defeat. Tell me why. Oh, God. Tell me why. Blah, 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 blah. Tell me why. Why do fools fall in love? Good job.
Oh my God. That was the worst performance I've ever done in my life.
That's okay.
Hopefully next month's will be better.
Yeah, you're cutting out a bit on my end there for sometimes. Good thing you recorded it on your end. We'll see how that comes out. If I can edit that together.
Yeah. The chords change so much that it's hard to keep it on rhythm. I'm really bad with I ain't got rhythm.
Buddy, you got rhythm to spare.
Oh, well, anyways, after that embarrassing performance, it's time to wrap up our podcast, right, Kevin?
It's looking like that is the time. Oh, Zach, before we go, I have to show you my new Lego. You can already see it in the background here. But it's very cool. I got it half off because of all my points I saved up as a Lego insider. Check it out. Ready for something cool?
Mm-hmm.
See?
Oh, wow.
I could just hear it going boom, 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 boom. And you can take them out as if you see a little flower on a stem. You can give it to your girlfriend. And for some reason, they also decided to make it a piggy bank. If you do this, you can have little Mario coins in there.
Wow.
I think they
You put real coins in there?
Yep. I think they just want you to have it as an actual piggy bank for some reason. But I'm probably not going to use that. I've already got a piggy bank. My piggy bank is a gigantic Martinelli's apple juice jar. But this is fun. About 500 pieces. Retails for $60. I bought it for $30 because I'm a Lego insider with points. But now I have no more points, and I'll have to save up again. Have you seen the Lego Rivendell set, Zach?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I'll also show you this because it's awesome. And also the Sauron one is awesome. Okay, I will show this to you and our audience here. See this?
Wow. Beautiful.
Got all sorts of details.
Love a good detail.
With the fellowship here. Very cool. There's Gandalf bed with Frodo. There's Bilbo. Hey, Zach, who is a cooler wizard, Gandalf or Dumbledore?
It's hard to say.
Here is Barad-dûr. See it, Zach?
Yeah, I used to have a set.
Yeah, this is yours, but it's way upgraded. $460. Crazy.
I don't know. I think that Gandalf and Dumbledore are cool in different ways.
Yeah, I'd have to really read the books and really get intimate with Dumbledore's characterization because there's so much in the movies of Harry Potter, especially that doesn't really leaves out, like the twinkle in his eye, and the whole relationship in Order of the Phoenix and that whole conversation they have after Sirius's death. Beautiful. Yes, but I'll have to read Gandalf to really see how J.R.R. Tolkien describes him.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, J.R.R. Tolkien. Frodo's gone.
And Sam's coming
We
with
should have done
you.
Lord of the Rings in 99 seconds for our song of the month.
Ah, damn.
Frodo links the ring to Mordor. My precious. Gandalf the White returns to wage war.
With a merry hug, Trace.
Theoden is like Benjamin Button.
He's aging backwards.
Legolas serves on a shield to defend.
Helm's Deep.
Big trees are attacking the orcs. I don't know what he says after that. He says a bunch of stuff. He names a bunch of characters.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I think is really cool? Lego A-frame cabin.
Yeah, that's a cool one. It's a nice. I'd like that one. That's a cool one. Would you like that for Christmas?
Uh,
It's like $200.
it's kind of expensive for a Christmas gift, but if you want to get
Yeah,
it
but
for
you're my
me, that
favorite brother, and I love you.
oh, I love you too, Kevin. You could
No,
get it for me for Christmas if you wanted. I might build it
That's nice.
and then resell it on Bricklink.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Well, I wouldn't want you to do that. I wouldn't buy it for you if you're gonna do that.
Okay,
I just fucking love little details like this.
what if you gave it to me for Christmas and then I built it and then I gave it back to you?
I wouldn't want that.
No.
I want it to be your special cabin.
I see. The thing is, if you looked around my room, there's really not a lot of places for me to put Lego sets. See, I have a desk here, and then I have a bed, and that's
Is that
all.
Foxy and Barry there with you?
Uh-huh.
Nice. And your creator?
Yep.
That's cute. Wow. Zach, have you seen the Lego question mark block? This is actually what I really want. And it's out of print. It's almost out of print. You have to look. This one's so awesome. I want it so bad. I want it so bad. You see?
Wow.
The little question mark. You got
I think I might have seen that in the past, but yeah, it is very
Snowman's
cool.
Land. You got Peach's Castle here. Bob on Battlefield.
I see.
Lava
So it's
Land down there.
N64, huh?
Yep, really cool. And see, you can see, you can open it up, the little interior Peach's Castle. I want it so bad. And there's Bowser at the end, but I don't think they show you. And this.
Oh! I just remembered to one of the shows I watched.
You did?
I watched. I might have already. Maybe I'm messing up the timeline. This might have been in June. I might have already even talked about this, but I did. No, I think we definitely did talk about this. I did rewatch. I think you should leave with Tim Robinson.
No, I don't think you talked about that.
Oh yeah, I pretty much watched like all the episodes
You watched the new
because they're
season?
super short. Even the new season. I already seen the new season. I've already seen all of it, but yeah, it was really funny. Lots of funny stuff.
Yeah, it's a funny one.
Um,
Yeah, you should watch my.
yeah.
It's like an hour and a half long, pretty much total.
What?
You should watch Smiling Friends. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours total. It's really good. It's another really funny one. Well, of course,
Perhaps,
you're your
maybe.
own person. You don't have to do what I say. Maybe after
Oh
that.
wait, Kevin, there's a website called lendabrick.com
Maybe that will be lendabrick.com. Maybe that
where
will be
you
my
can.
recommendation for September. Just for you to watch all of Smiling Friends. Just kidding. That would not be kosher because that is not what the recommendation is. It has to be for a movie.
Yeah, Kevin. So you can rent the Lord of the Rings Rivendell set for a 1 week period for 28 euros. This is exactly what I've always wanted.
Yeah,
Lend.
this was the business idea you had for me. 1 week for 28,000 euros. Let's see, what's that in USD?
Not 28,000, just 28. The comma is a period in every other country.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you probably, given that it is in euros, you probably can't rent them in America. It's probably
So
UK only or something.
$30 a week. Yeah, that's certainly not bad. How would you rent that and give it back?
I think they would just ship it to you and then you would just ship it back. They'd ship it to you, you would build it, and then you would disassemble it, and you would send it back.
That doesn't sound very fun. Disassembling part is very
Well,
tedious.
I don't know. Maybe you don't have to just. I don't know. This is the first time I've ever seen this site, so who
There's
knows?
also Brick Borrow. Wow. Mighty Bowser's another cool one. Oh, wow, lots of cool Legos. If only I hit hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, make sure to come back next month when I talk about Before Sunrise if you'd like to watch that too, and join us in our monthly film club. You can do that. It's available
Indeed.
on, let's see, for all our viewers. Of course, I can just refer to my beautiful Criterion 3-pack, which Zach scammed me for, and he made me pay double the money. Just kidding. That was my own fault, because I am a moron who has no patience. But it's actually not streaming anywhere, so it looks like I'm the only person in the world who can watch it.
Indeed.
You can watch it for $4.
There's no way to watch a movie unless it's on a streaming service.
You can just rent it for $4.
Yeah, for $4, which is not that much money.
Or you can email us at orwecanfilm@gmail.com. I'll give you my address. You can watch it with me.
I haven't checked our email. Wonder if we have any emails. Probably not
Yeah,
though.
we don't.
I don't
We,
want to
we
check
haven't
that.
done our. Oh look, you already emailed me. Very timely. Let's see if I can even open this. I can open it. I just need to figure out how to download it. That shouldn't be too hard.
There's a big download
Yeah, I
button.
know. I see. Let's
You
see.
know what I'm downloading right now, Kevin? I'm downloading Beach Boys. Oh, now I'm hearing myself.
Zach, it looks like we have no new emails. Looks like our my AMC Plus subscription has ended, but other than
Kevin,
that, we have no updates.
do you? My audio is playing in my ears. Oh no, that's me. Never mind. I'm so dumb. Psh,
Yeah, I don't hear you. No
how
people
silly.
want
That
to
was
hear you.
myself. Sorry about that. I just got confused for a second. I'm downloading the Beach Boys Unsurpassed Masters Volume 1 right now. Did you know that?
Nope. Was that all
It's
the albums you wanted to discuss, Zach? You had a big list of albums. I've been listening to Off the Wall, Thriller, and Food this month. Really like Food.
Food.
Yeah, by MF Doom.
Oh,
We listened
I see.
listened to it for the first time in that Denny's parking lot, but I've been listening to it again and again. Really great mixing, really great production. Unsurpassed Masters. This is some unofficial.
Yeah, these are the bootlegs. It's basically just every available recording
Wow.
by the Beach Boys ever.
Wow.
Um,
Pretty crazy.
yeah, and it's super high quality. It's taking an hour and 21 minutes to download. Not because I think it's that big of a file, but the downloader I'm using requires you to pay if you want a fast download. You can only get a slow download if you don't pay. But hopefully once it downloads, I tried downloading yesterday, but it took so long that I closed my computer and it just stopped. So I'm re-downloading it. It says I have an hour and 21 minutes left, but hopefully I'll be able to listen to it and see if it's cool or not.
I listened to the Beat It demo by Michael Jackson off of Thriller 25th Anniversary album.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It's like him doing it a cappella. He says, "Man, Michael Jackson's voice is so crazy. I can't believe he actually sounds like that." It's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna record the audio for Beat It now. It goes like this: 1, 2, 3." And then he sings.
Does he say that?
Voice. Yeah, he says it. I can't believe he sounds like that. And then he switches into his singing voice and it's awesome. But he sounds like so weird. Sounds like a little girl or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel
Well,
like
I did
for me
listen.
at least it's like a one-time thing for like out of curiosity, but I wouldn't listen to that stuff like on my free. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather listen to like the mastered actual song. it's interesting, definitely, to hear those studio recordings.
Listening to the
Hi, this is
Smile
Aaron.
sessions is awesome because you just get this very cool insight into Brian Wilson's production because especially for they have one whole disc is just good vibration sessions because you know they spent 6 months doing that and they have like organizing the Gold Star recordings and the Western Western recordings in all the different studios, but you can hear Brian like just giving his feedback and saying, you know, someone was a little slow or a little fast. I couldn't quite tell. All right, guys, let's keep it groovy, man. Let's get it together on this take. Number five. He goes, number five. That's a very important number for me. Let's get it on take number five. And I just like listening to him talk and directing the studio. It's during the peak of his genius.
Does
It's
he ever
awesome.
does he ever say
No, he doesn't. But he talks a lot about me. He goes like, let's try to keep that. Let's try to give it that 2/4 emphasis, guys. Um, and yeah, and there's also all the psychedelic sounds, um, such as Brian falls into a piano, the classic, but also Brian falls into a microphone.
Interesting.
Um,
I have to listen to that.
yeah, if I think it's a good thing to listen to, sort of, I listened to it while I was cleaning my room because you don't necessarily need to like sit down and like put your headphones on and like listening to it with your eyes closed or anything because there's a lot of kind of repeating like just background sounds, but it's just kind of cool to go through the whole journey of it.
Is
And
there
also,
a
I was listening to some of the Sail on Sailor box set, and in particular, there's a there's one where Brian is Brian actively like kind of writing the song, and it's so funny because one of the lyrics he's like kind of improvising words because he usually just focuses on the music and then the words come later. So he was just like improvising words, and he was like talking about one of the lyrics was like, "I did some snow. I got to buy some. I need to get some." Just him talking about cocaine, and yeah, it was just funny. But listening to that, it's just so interesting because you can hear him just creating it, and he keeps on like going back and saying, "No, wait, wait." He keeps on redoing little parts and like changing them, and yeah,
very
very
interesting and
interesting.
cool?
And I was also the reason I was listening to that is because I was listening to the Sail On podcast, which does day by day recaps of all the sessions and explains different things.
Wow.
And they
Yeah.
also share stories of people how they came to like the Beach Boys. It's very cool to hear all the different stories.
Yeah, I had that one in my podcast section of Spotify, but I still haven't listened to anything.
Mm. Yeah, the one thing that's sad about that podcast is that they start out with Wyatt, Wyatt and Jason, um, and Wyatt's like the creator, and Jason kind of just comes along and talks with him, but they're both Beach Boys fans. And but then like around Pet Sounds Smile Sessions era, Jason stops coming to the podcast, and he sort of changes the whole format where the host kind of just does an intro and then he leads into these two guys, Will and John, who talk about the sessions in depth. But I really enjoyed listening to Jason and Wyatt's conversation because they talk more about like music theory kind of stuff, whereas now they talk more just about like what actually happened on a day-to-day basis and things like that. But they both came from a band, the Explorers Club, which is a original music band, and then Jason started focusing more on the Explorers Club, and Wyatt left it, and uh, yeah. Anyways,
Zach, do you have any
doesn't really
thoughts
matter.
on the recent Marvel news of Robert Downey Jr.? Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. I don't
Any
know.
thoughts?
I think it's just kind of I don't know. It's just weird. No, I don't. I mean, I guess I don't know. I just don't really care about Marvel to be honest at this
Mm-hmm.
point. I do want to
Yeah,
see Deadpool and Wolverine though.
yeah.
It's supposed to be really good,
I
according to the
heard,
Red Letter Media review.
yeah, I heard that Chris Evans was in it as Human Torch, and Wesley Snipes was in it as Blade.
Mm.
They're really just bringing everybody back. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Theme park
The
rides.
multiverse, man. Anything can happen.
I'm not as cynical as them. I still see how it's fun, but it's like, yeah, definitely theme park rides. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, yeah, what didn't he play Iron Man? Wait a minute. You know,
That guy
I'm
looks. Doctor Doom looks a lot like Tony Stark.
yeah. I'm assuming they'll do some like alternate timeline where he's like disgraced Tony Stark. If they don't do that, it's like, why is he there? Why is it the same actor? But I'm assuming that's what they'll do, which is cool. But it's also funny they just canceled the whole Kang storyline, and I watched Ant Man and Loki, and those were setting up everything of Kang, but they just dropped it completely apparently.
Man,
Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious about
redonkulous.
the Deadpool one. I might watch that once it's out of theaters, maybe. But there's better movies out there.
Indeed.
Yes.
Lots of movies that were released in the past that are
Such
better.
as all 11 Children of the Corn movies.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yes. I'm clearly spending my time watching pure cinema. I would never watch Marvel. Just kidding. But
No.
I'm watching things that are much worse than Marvel. Anyways, I wanted to bring that up because I thought of it earlier in the episode and I just remembered. Being that you were the big Iron Man fan who cried after he died, and now he's just back.
I don't know if I cried when he died.
Didn't you cry at some point in Endgame? I thought
Um,
you cried at it when you were in the opening night. Oh man.
I think I definitely was very filled with excitement and joy and just energy. I might have gotten emotional. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I cried, but I definitely was like feeling everything that was happening as it was happening. Um, More so, I just remember the moment when when Thor's hammer slowly lifts off the ground, and you
Mm-hmm.
know it's coming. You see, and Captain America grabs it. It's awesome. But yeah, cinema peaked when the hammer slowly rose off the ground, and the way the little pieces of dirt around it sort of rose too, and you just knew it was coming. Just the excitement, the anticipation, and I just was like my hands were like when you high five someone really hard. That's how my hands were after I was done clapping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my main highlight of that moment was not my own reaction, but Luke Christensen's. He was really excited. I was watching it next to him. He's like, "Oh yeah," he said that. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We all got up and went, "Oh, oh." You were asleep at that point, though. So
yeah,
I
yeah. I
watched it
was.
again.
I watched it 5 times.
Wow, you watched it
I haven't
five
wa- I haven't
times.
watched
That's
it
crazy.
since. Can you believe that? I haven't watched it since 2019.
I
I
believe
kind of want to
that.
watch it. Talking about it now, I kind of want to watch it right after this.
I watched it
Earlier, I was thinking of
twice.
watching Curb Your Enthusiasm after this, but now I might watch Avengers Endgame.
Wow.
Also, did you know that we recorded this podcast for so long that Jewel Osco is closed now, and I can't get my lime that I need for my super veggie dish.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that, Zach. I didn't know I was preventing you from making your lime dish.
It's okay. It's not a lime dish. It's
That's what you said.
broccoli, cauliflower, mushrooms, garlic, and ginger boiled, and then lentils. It's supposed to be black lentils, but currently I only have green lentils. But I'm gonna get black lentils soon. But cooked lentils, and then you put the vegetables on top of the lentils, and then you top it with a tablespoon of cumin, which I love. I've always loved. A tablespoon of olive oil, uh, the juice of one lime, freshly squeezed, and a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And then you're supposed to top with hemp seeds, but I don't have any hemp seeds currently. I'm getting black lentils and hemp seeds in the mail. on August 5th, I believe. But yeah, that's super veggie. It's supposed to be one of the healthiest possible meals you can have. As you can see, it's been working great. Anyways, um, as we always say,
Keep your
keep your
friends
friends
close.
close and your enemies closer.